Good evening, everyone. We're live from the Donatorium for another episode of the Fat Minute. I'm joined tonight by my co-host, good friend, all-right artist, BVJ.
Bad friend, bad artist.
And we're also welcoming back returning guest, the world's tallest short guy, Mike Weadon.
Exactly.
And I am, of course, Don John. And hey, everyone listening at home tonight, have you called your mom? Have you called her and told her you loved her? Because I did.
What?
Yep.
What?
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 Oh,
All right, well, we got a great episode tonight. We're talking about the year 2006. We got a lot to get into, so let's get into it. We're going to start off with some cultural topics, and we're going to start off with a fun one that made like all the late night talk shows back in the day, the Dick Cheney hunting incident. Back in 2006, Vice President Dick Cheney was on a hunting trip with a friend of his. They were hunting quail, and long story short, he shot his friend in the face. And to give you guys an idea of like how much of not a big deal and how little of a fuck everybody gave about the poor guy who got shot, like there was no like moment where everybody was like, "Oh my god, I hope he's okay." Like it immediately became a joke, and immediately just like turned into everyone shitting on Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
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 What do you guys got to say?
Well, then didn't that guy? He apologized to Dick
Yeah,
Cheney.
yeah, like that's
Yeah.
that's a level of power I hope I get to, where I can shoot somebody and he apologizes to me.
Oh, that's messed up. The hell with that.
Yeah, but I just remember like it immediately became a joke.
Yeah. And it's just also like, I don't know. Everything about that dude is honestly like creepy. I hate that guy.
Yeah,
But yeah, no. I mean, that was what I remembered most, was like the guy apologizing to him. And then wasn't it? I mean, it was in everything. I think The Simpsons made fun of it. Family Guy made fun of it.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, no. That's all I got to say on it, really.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same thing. I mean, I remember hearing in the news like when it just happened. I think, there was talk like, was the guy gonna live or die? Like, I don't know if that was just rumors or miscommunication, but it was like, oh shit, like Dick Cheney like fucking shot somebody,
Yeah,
and it was on accident. Apparently. You think it would have been on purpose, but I don't. Yeah, no, no, it's like same thing with Blake. I've never been a fan of Dick Cheney. Me personally, I don't know how you guys feel. I feel like personally he was the mastermind behind the Bush administration and is like almost like the Dark Lord.
Correct.
yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
But I feel like George Bush was just a little dumb puppet.
Oh, I mean, like, that also goes into like the whole like persona George Bush had of like the simple everyman Texan rancher. Like that identity, that character was completely created by Dick Cheney. Because as soon as George Bush was no longer president, he sold that ranch. Like that was just a prop, really.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, like the George Bush, once again, the George Bush we knew from the media, that was like basically a cartoon character illustrated by Dick Cheney. So
yeah. And did you guys I mean, it's kind of off topic, but it kind of isn't. Did you guys ever see the movie Vice that was about Dick Cheney?
No.
I still need to. I know you and I have talked about it a few times, Mike, but I'm sure Christian Bale's really good in it.
Yeah, no, you guys. I feel like you two would love that movie. I mean, like I feel like some people were worried it was gonna like glorify him. It doesn't at all.
No.
It's literally like a comedy that like, well, it's not really it's a kind of like a weird drama with like comedic parts, and it like paints him in a bad light.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like there's like random parts that are like funny. Like there's like, I mean, not to spoil anything, but like there's a part where there's like a musical part, and then there's literally a part where all the characters start talking like Shakespeare characters.
Huh.
Yeah, but like it's so good. It just shows like like just his rise to power and like how he like manipulates everything.
Yeah.
It's a wild ass movie.
It was the same director as the guy who made most of the Will Ferrell movies, like Step Brothers and Anchorman and Talladega Nights.
Yeah, Adam McKay.
Adam McKay and yeah.
Well, he started doing serious movies. He did that. What was that other movie he did with Christian Bale? It was about like the
Big Short.
The Big Short. Yeah, about like what was it, the mortgage scandals or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't care for that one that much. I felt like it was marketed incorrectly. Like
I never saw that one.
yeah, I just think it didn't live up to like how the trailers painted it. But I don't want to get too off topic about talking about another movie within another movie. But
Yeah, well,
Filmception.
yeah. No, bringing up Vice. No, I agree with that, but I don't want to turn it into like a critique of the filmography of Adam McKay, especially since he'll come up later anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then let's move on to the next topic, the Great American Boycott, which was basically a one-day boycott of schools and businesses by immigrants, took place in 2006, and I mainly listed this topic for tonight because, like a year or two ago, we had another thing just like this where businesses and stuff owned by immigrants was like closed down for a whole day in solidarity and protest of, basically anti-immigration sentiments in the country going on. And I brought this up for 2006 because I remember this was the time when like the modern sentiment towards immigrants was beginning to like really take shape and really start to kick off. Because I mean, there had always been kind of like talk about like the dangers at the southern border with Mexico for years. But this is when they were really starting to talk about, we need to build like a wall here. We need to do something to keep these people out, specifically just the Mexicans. This is when the modern like the anti-immigration mentality that we see in this country now, this is when it really started to take its shape the way we see it now.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was interesting that we had this happen in 2006, and here, over a decade later, we have the same thing happening again.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys got to say?
I have absolutely zero memory of this whatsoever. But I mean, that's not saying it's not a worthy topic. It's just that, I mean, of course, this was, this was the end of my freshman year going into the beginning of my sophomore year. And I guess with like different stuff like that, unless it was like a main headline featuring like the president, at the time, it just kind of went over my head. I still had like the ignorance and innocence of, mid-teenage years in me left. But yeah, I mean, and then also we also did something like this over the summer where it was Blackout Tuesday, where on Instagram everybody did like a black square, and and people automatically morphed that with the Black Lives Matter movement. Obviously, it was all going on at the time, but I'm pretty sure like originally that was meant to like, I think Blackout Tuesday was supposed to be that like don't only give like business to African American and black owned small businesses, don't give any corporations business that day, unless I like completely misread that, but I think that's what it was originally meant to be. So yeah, it definitely comes back every now and then, and actually, I mean, it's a strategy that makes sense. It's like, hurt them where it really hurts. Just like don't spend, don't give certain parts of the economy any business if you really want to be heard sometimes, And
it's like, what's ironic is in 2006 when this boycott happened, a big supporter of this boycott was the company Goya. They like shut down operations for the entire day and to show support. Now we fast forward to now and look what Goya's doing.
Yeah, like I was like coming in and out on that one. All I know is like Ted Cruz defended them, so I was sure they made a pretty bad decisions with something.
Yeah, well, Ted Cruz has an interesting picture from me sitting in his inbox right now, so fuck him.
Oh, wow.
Mike, did you hear about that?
Oh no.
Oh
no.
Okay, so
he can tell you about it later.
Oh no, we're gonna talk about it now. So did you see like a week or two ago that like Ted Cruz said something about how liberal men don't grow balls?
I think so, yeah.
Well, I took personal offense to that, so I felt a strong need to prove him wrong. So I sent Ted Cruz on Facebook a picture of my dick and balls.
Like literally.
Oh yeah, it's like straight up like, and I made sure that I got like a little erect too, because I mean he's an asshole, but he is a U.S. senator, so he does deserve a little bit of respect.
You want to be a little hung.
Right.
That's great.
I did not condone or endorse this action at all. I'm never going to be able to run for president because of you.
That's gonna be in your stand-up, I suppose.
Probably.
That's funny.
Oh man, fuck him. Anyway, next topic: death of Steve Irwin.
Oh, now this I remember.
Yeah, like this. This was like the first celebrity death that I like remember like actually getting upset over, just because like how could you not love Steve Irwin, you know? He was just a dude who loved going on adventures and telling everybody about animals. But, you know, in 2006 he was doing a documentary on some stingrays, and one of them stabbed him in the chest and he died off the coast of Australia. And you know, I really think we could use someone like Steve Irwin today. Just not so much his television personality, but just his views on conservation and the environment. I think his voice could really be used right now.
I mean, it was definitely shocking because like, and I mean, people made fun of what he did, you know. It was like one of those things where he would have the stick and he would poke at something with it and he'd be like, oh, he's becoming very angry. And it's like, well, yeah, no shit, man, you're poking it with a stick.
Yeah.
Like, but
he was a goofy dude, but you couldn't help but love him.
He was a goofy dude, you couldn't help but love him. And it's like, it was shocking because surely there were those people out there that were like, well, what did you expect? You know, like sooner or later, you know, of course, if you keep messing around with that stuff. But then also, it's like after a while, we just assumed he was basically immortal. Like,
yeah,
if he was willing to go through like everything else he went through before then, it was like he was just unstoppable and indestructible.
Like out of all the ways for him to go, like I thought he was gonna like die because I thought what was eventually gonna kill him was he was going to actually discover Bigfoot, and that was gonna rip him to shreds. That's how I thought he was gonna go.
It opened my eyes, and it's like I didn't realize until then that stingrays were lethal.
Oh yeah.
I didn't realize they could kill you.
I mean, they're usually not aggressive, but yeah, they can kill you.
But yeah, no, it was sad. It was sad. It was weird.
Yeah.
It was like someone who you thought could just keep chugging along, and you know his time was up.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, no, I actually remember being really upset when he passed away. I used to watch a show a lot. I used to watch it a lot with Andrew, because when we were kids, he was like Animal Planet's #1 fan. Like he was like glued to that channel.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, and that's the thing. I feel like a lot of people don't remember how big he was. Like what a cultural phenomenon Steve Irwin was.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he was everywhere. Like, he had toys. I remember there was, like, commercials. He had a board game.
Yeah.
He also had a movie, and I always forget that he had a movie, too.
Yeah.
It was, like, some of it was, like, actually a documentary, but it was, like, interwoven with, like, a scripted, like, plot, I guess.
Yeah, it was, like, just, like, a comedy or something.
Yeah. No, I mean, like... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, you're good.
No, I mean, like, the only, at a certain point, like, the only thing he was missing was his own animated series, like Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have gotten it eventually.
Yeah.
Oh, man, could you imagine if he would have gotten an animated series and then they did a crossover with Jackie Chan Adventures?
Oh, dude. Also, sidebar, is it too late to talk about that show? Like, that was a great cartoon.
Jackie Chan Adventures?
When did that come out?
Let's find.
When did it end?
I feel like that came out in '99 and probably ended in like early 2000s.
Oh shoot! Then we surely already missed it, but that was a fun show.
I'm gonna look it up right now. It started in the year 2000
Mm-hmm.
and it ended in 2005.
Oh shoot. Oh well. Well, I mean, while we're at it, like that was a fun show.
Yeah.
Throwback to yeah.
That was a fun show.
They should have just made that into a movie,
Oh yeah.
like a Jackie Chan movie where he's looking for the 12 talismans.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's
It would have
like,
been.
yeah,
It would have been like they could have made it like the Chinese Indiana Jones in a way.
yeah.
Pretty
Well,
much.
then, like, and it wasn't only just Jackie Chan. It was like it was all the supporting characters that were really fun.
Mhm.
Like
And
his
it's like,
uncle and his niece.
yeah, yeah. And like I remember just watching episodes of it, and then I would look at the stuff he was releasing in theaters, like the Tuxedo, and
Yeah.
I'm like, why don't they just make the Jackie Chan Adventure Show into a movie? Like, why don't we just have that? But
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, Jackie Chan's like his like old movies, like the movies he made like overseas, are way better than the ones over in America.
yeah, that's true.
Well, like the
Yeah.
one where he does all the crazy stunts and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, back to Steve Irwin. Back on the
Oh.
rails here, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, it just sucks. And I mean, I love like seeing the stuff nowadays, like with his kids, but like in all honesty, like his kids will never be as big as he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have to have that personality.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He had that very charismatic, like always in a good mood.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and there will never be another Steve Irwin,
Yeah.
and the world is a smaller place without him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just he's one of those people where at least one thing you could say is he got to do what he loved up until the very end. So
Oh yeah. He's just
Yeah.
just a dude who just loved doing what he did every day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to our last cultural topic: Disney buying Pixar. Now, I brought this one up for tonight because this was like the beginning of Disney buying literally fucking everything they could get their hands on.
Mhm.
And it started in almost the shittiest of ways because the reason Disney bought Pixar was because at the time they were beginning to start talks on Toy Story 3. And I'm trying to remember the exact details of how it went down. But basically, there was a disagreement between Disney and Pixar over what they each wanted Toy Story 3 to be story-wise. If I remember correctly, I think Pixar had pitched a story where there was going to be like a massive recall of the Buzz Lightyear toys, and that was going to like cause a huge problem or whatever, and that was going to be the story. And Disney didn't like it, and like it caused a dispute. So basically, Pixar was like, all right, fine, we're just not going to do the movie then. And Disney's like, well, we own the characters. You made them for us. And Pixar's like, yeah, you own the characters, but you can't make any sequels without us. So Disney was basically like, all right, then we're just going to fucking buy you. And yeah, now after that, it's like anytime Disney sees it, it just planted that seed where anytime they see anything that they want, they buy it. And I think it's getting really out of hand. I think anybody thinks it's getting out of hand.
Yeah.
The company owns way too fucking much.
Yep.
But strictly Disney buying Pixar, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I would like to also bleed into what you were saying there just a second ago, towards the end of that statement. But yeah, I mean, number one was, it took me forever to realize that Disney didn't originally own Pixar.
Right.
I didn't really notice that before. Where it's like, I just assumed that like Pixar was the new animation wing of Disney. Like I
Right.
just assumed that Disney created Pixar. So that was surprising. But then it made more sense because Pixar was like supposed to. I remember seeing on IMDb that Pixar was going to try to make other movies with different studios.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were going to make a movie for Warner Brothers. It was called like 1948 or something like that. But I never saw anything more than the title. But the point is like they were going to work with other people.
Right.
And then, but yeah, no, it was like and I guess not to foreshadow, a few episodes from now, but like every 3 years they had another major buy. So
Mhm.
like, I didn't realize this was 2006 until you said it, Donnie. But you had this in 2006. 3 years later, in '09, they bought Marvel, and then 3 years later, in 2012, they bought Lucasfilm, which, like, Marvel, like, I honestly, people were worried about Marvel, but I was like, oh, whatever. And then when they bought Star Wars, I was like, well, they haven't made any new Star Wars movies anyway, so it's like, that's probably the only way we'll ever get a new Star Wars movie, whatever. But
Yeah.
when they finally bought Fox, I was like, I should not have to explain to someone that the majority of an industry should not be owned by the same entity.
Yeah.
Like, that is just a terrible idea.
On top of everything else they already owned, like ESPN, ABC.
ABC, and now they own National Geographic.
Yeah.
And it was like if you're gonna buy Fox, and it was, I think 20th Century Fox wanted to be bought anyway. I think that's what was going on, and then, like, there were people that just wanted to focus on doing Fox News, but they were like, well, we don't care about spending money on everything else. We just want to be a news corporation now. But
Right.
But yeah, no, I mean, that's the only way I would have supported that purchase, is like if Disney could have just bought the whole thing and then canceled Fox News.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but yeah, no, it's I didn't know that story until just now when you said that. That's very petty, but that's not surprising coming from them. And then they buy us tomorrow.
Hey, I'll take the fucking money.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I would have to. But yeah, you go ahead.
We could always start another podcast.
Yeah, true.
No, they buy us specifically, not the show, just us.
I mean, that's probably not
like in Wayne's World, where they own the show and then they fire Wayne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Garth's just all alone. He's like, I'm having a good time.
Well, we would just use that we would use that money that they purchased us with to actually get a nice studio and then create a better show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? But anyway, about Pixar, you go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, like Blake said, when I was a kid, I never realized that they were, two separate entities. I just always thought, like, they were the same thing, kind of like Touchstone, like how Touchstone was like Disney's movie company, like to make like they usually made like PG-13 and R movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Under Touchstone.
That studio existed literally to just keep mud off the mouse.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And then I think they had another one for a while. It was like Hollywood Pictures. I think that was owned by them too, back in the day.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, that one's been gone since like the 90s. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't personally like that Disney's buying everything up. I just feel like they're monopolizing the movie industry, and they're just dominating the box office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my thing is like it's also getting to a certain point, like even if the movies are bad, like people are still going to go see them because it's Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars and whatever Fox makes.
Yeah.
I mean, and Fox has a ton of franchises too.
Yeah.
Which is funny because they got Star Wars before, and like Fox used to have Star Wars.
Yeah. And Fox would have forever owned, without that purchase, Fox would have forever owned the movie rights to A New Hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like for some reason there was something where Fox always owned specifically A New Hope, and they would have owned it forever.
Well, I think it was because it was before like Lucasfilm got big.
Yeah.
I think it was before Lucasfilm like really took off on its own, because the only movie that George Lucas made before A New Hope was American Graffiti.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He hadn't really taken off yet, and shit, where was I going with that?
It's okay.
I went blank. It was a duh. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, you brought up like Touchstone Pictures, and it's interesting you bring that up because, and I totally forget if we had Lady in the Water in the list of movies for tonight, but it was a movie that came out in 2006, and the first like few M. Night Shyamalan movies were all made by Touchstone Pictures, like Buena Vista, which is weird because when you think of like M. Night Shyamalan, you would never think of Disney. But it's funny because Lady in the Water was the first M. Night Shyamalan movie not made by Disney, because when he went to them to pitch his new movie, and he had just done like The Village, which wasn't as good as Signs, and then Signs, which people said wasn't as good as Unbreakable and The Sixth Sense, even though, whatever. But he pitched the plot for Lady in the Water, and his main producer at Disney looked him right in the face and said, "I don't get it." and he was like, "Well, fine, then I'll go to someone else." And she goes, and she honestly said, like, "Well, no, I'll still produce it, do your thing, but I'm just letting you know I don't understand your story here." But he was so offended that she didn't understand it that he deliberately went to Warner Brothers and had them make it.
Boss moves in American history.
Not really, because Lady in the Water was kind of shitty. I don't mean to punch down here, but like, yeah, that was a bad one. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
But I will say I was getting to a kind of a funny side thing, because I mean, if anybody knows me, I know you guys know, but people on the outside listening, I'm a huge Power Ranger fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you guys knew, but like in 2002, Walt Disney purchased Power Rangers from Saban.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the only thing I think that Disney has bought and then later on sold.
And they sold it back to Saban.
Yeah, they sold it back to Saban.
Who then sold it to Hasbro like a year or two ago.
Yeah, Hasbro bought it 2 years ago. That's because like they called it the Neo Saban era was terrible. But and that's the thing. But the thing is, that's the one thing I want Disney to buy back, because the Disney era of Power Rangers, like show-wise, was actually pretty decent.
Was that Time Force?
No, that was right before.
Mm.
Time Force was actually 2 years before. See, the best years of Power Rangers, I'm going to go on a thing, is the late Saban years, like right before they got bought out, and then a lot of the Disney years. Like, there's literally only like one Disney season that isn't good.
Huh.
And like,
All
but
right.
I think the reason Disney sold it is because like in the late 2000s, like 2000, because they sold it in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just the popularity of Power Rangers just kind of waning.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you got into the 2010s, like people started getting nostalgic about like the original seasons. So then Neo, and then like Saban bought it back.
Well, they were probably also trying to make some Marvel money back because they had just purchased Marvel,
Right.
and 2009 was the only, other than now, 2009 was the only year without a MCU film.
Yeah, and the only reason now is because of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
But yeah, it's like Disney, buy back Power Rangers.
Well, now we're talking about movies a little bit. Let's move on to that topic for the evening. Start off with Grandma's Boy.
Yeah.
This is like the perfect movie to watch during a get together with like a few of your buddies. Like it's just a silly fucking movie. Quotable movie, memorable moments, especially what the fuck's the dude's name? The tall, skinny dude who basically plays like the villain of the movie. JP, yeah. What's the
Kylo Ren?
Yeah, fucking
Onions, bird nuggets.
please sit on my face.
Drive safe.
The only other thing I've seen that guy in was Avatar, like James Cameron's Avatar. He's one of the scientists that actually wants to be there.
Yeah.
Hey, what's life like in the Matrix?
We know how much do clothes cost in the
Yeah,
Matrix.
yeah.
Oh, hey, look, it's Bono's brother.
The fucking scene in the beginning when he's staying at Nick Swartzen's house and he's like jerking off to that fucking doll he's got, and he turns around right as his mom walks in.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't stop coming.
I can't stop.
It's a Laura Croft doll too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, he's like, why'd you do it, man? He's like, I couldn't sleep. I saw the doll. He's like, well, why didn't you just wake me up so we could play video games? He's like, well, I didn't want to disturb you. You were balls deep in your turtle. And he's just like, he's like, I love my turtle.
He's like, well, you could stay the rest of the night. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm sure that's going to be a nice breakfast.
And that was like one of Jonah Hill's first roles too.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that is my main favorite point to make about that movie is like he was like, you know, the chubby weird kid in the movie and whatever. I would love to be able to time travel back to that moment on set and just say to everybody, hey, guess what? Out of everyone here, that's the guy who's going to be nominated for 2 Academy Awards. Like out of all those people there, he's the one that's the Oscar nominee.
Talk about a glow up.
Absolutely. And then also it's like it's a Happy Madison movie. And is Adam Sandler anywhere in that movie, or like is there even like a brief cameo or a shot or something?
No.
Nope.
I didn't think so.
That's
but
why it's
like,
decent.
Well, no, that's what I was saying. Like, it's a Happy Madison movie without Adam Sandler, and it was better than most of the Adam Sandler movies at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still is.
So, yeah, I mean, and then is Click on the list for tonight? I hate to keep asking that question. I'm so sorry, but
I
Was that
wasn't
2006?
planning on it.
oh, okay, yeah. That
But
was
if you really
2006.
want to talk about it,
Well, I was just gonna say, like, just briefly, like, Click is probably one of the better Adam Sandler movies, especially for that era.
in my opinion, it's
So-
the last decent one.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, no, Click's pretty good. It has some heart to it. Like,
In my opinion, he has not made a watchable movie since then.
Click is probably my top 5, but like The Wedding Singer is still my number 1. But back to Grandma's Boy. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to steer us away again. But I mean, it's just, and then you have like the one dude who's like always high. Like Michael does a better impression of him than I do. Like, go ahead, Mike.
The pot dealer,
Yeah.
Dante.
Yeah.
And that's his actual name in real life, Peter Dante. Yeah, I love when he goes to his house because he's been calling him since he got evicted.
Mm-hmm.
He knocks on his door and he shows up and he's naked and he's just like, "Hey man, I've been calling you like 5 times. What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm sorry, man. I was just hanging up my Christmas decorations." "Dude, it's July. Get the fuck out of here." He's like, "Why are you naked?" "Oh my God, I am naked." Come on.
He's like teaching a monkey fucking karate.
he's like, "Dude, your ass is tanner than my face." Yeah, he's teaching a monkey karate, and then he gets a lion to guard his stash. He's like, "Why don't you just buy a dog?" He's like, "You can get past a dog. Nobody fucks with a lion."
And then you have Linda. How do you pronounce her last name? Yeah, I mean, you have Velma from Scooby-Doo, and she's there, and once again, she's a huge crush. But yeah, no, I mean, it's just
You spent all of our rent money on hookers? They're not hookers. Massage therapists. Yeah, they'll massage your cock for money. There's a word for that. I think it's hooker. You're a hooker.
You're a hooker. I love that. I love how one of them's Kevin Nash.
Yeah.
yeah.
Super shredder.
It's
Super shred.
Sometimes you just need a really stupid movie, and it serves its purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like the world's smartest dumb movie.
Yeah.
And then like JP in it, like that's who Elon Musk's son is totally going to grow up to be. I'm calling it now.
I feel like we went to high school with a couple people like JP.
What, like the dude who like tried to make armor and he showed up to school and the school was like, you can't show up to that wearing that. And he's like, why?
If you're talking about the same kid, I think you're talking about. He's also the kid that brought a samurai sword to art class to draw, and he wore it on his back, and he drew it, and he accidentally cut the back of his head and into the hospital, and he had to go to the hospital.
How the fuck did I not hear about this?
Yeah.
Because I think that was like our freshman year.
Oh.
He was older than us.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that's the same kid you're talking about, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he like put a big gash in the back of his head with a samurai sword and had to be rushed to the hospital.
Jesus.
Okay, but you know what? And this is like a high school student in 2006. He obviously he had to borrow somebody's credit card for that, so shame on them. But
As long as we're
I,
a little off topic talking about weird kids we went to school with, I'll never forget the one who got
no
tricked
names, no
no
names.
names, but the one who got tricked on MSN. Hey, tell me your deepest, darkest secret, and I'll go out with you. Well, last week I shit myself in the middle of class.
That was an honest to God thought process.
Yeah, like
It's
he
I
thought,
must woo her.
yeah, I need something dark and that makes me seem dark and mysterious to make her think I'm cool enough to date. I'll tell her about how I shit myself.
I miss high school so fucking much.
One of us has to.
Yeah.
And, well, that's the hilarious thing. Is like you wouldn't think I had the persona of someone who would miss high school, but no, like I miss high school.
Let's move
Okay.
on to our next movie. She's the Man.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I have nothing to say about this movie because I've never seen it, so I'm just gonna bounce it over to you, Blake.
Okay, I saw this movie for the first time in 2007, and I remember it coming out, in high school. But obviously, I just didn't go see it because, with all due respect, like it's enjoyable now. I love it now. Like I would recommend it now. But like at the time, as a high school dude, it's not really a movie you would be like, "Hey boys, let's go see that."
Yeah.
But no, like it's a charming movie. And it once again tried to like be like, it definitely tried to ride on the wave of Mean Girls. And it was probably like one of the better Amanda Bynes movies. I know she didn't have many movies, and it was one of the first appearances of Channing Tatum. And it's a very quotable movie. Have you seen it, Michael? Obviously you haven't seen it, Donnie, but have you seen it, Mike?
I've only seen parts of it. I've never watched it all the way through.
I mean, if you were willing to watch Mean Girls more than once, I think you should give this one a chance.
Yeah,
It's definitely quotable. It's silly, and it's my wife's favorite movie.
Really?
It's her favorite movie. She literally told me about how she watched it like 4 or 5 times in one day, back in college, because she watched it by herself in the morning, and then her one friend came over and wanted to watch it, and then she went over to her one friend's dorm and they were watching it, and then like to fall asleep at night, she was like, "Oh, I'll just put it on." So yeah, literally 4 times in one day, I think. But yeah, no, yeah, obviously there's not much for us to go back and forth about here, but no, I recommend it. It's an enjoyable, charming movie.
All right. Well, then let's move on to our next movie. V for Vendetta.
Fuck.
I have never seen such a mediocre movie inspire so many people before. On such an annoying level. Like, too many people took this movie way too seriously, especially during our high school years. And it got so fucking annoying. Everybody, like, especially like people like that anonymous group wearing those Guy Fawkes masks, people thinking they were like some sort of revolutionary who was going to reveal this big government conspiracy. And it's like, no, your name's Bob. Stop it.
I don't want to start shit with them though right now.
Oh yeah, they might steal the show. But
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, go ahead, Blake.
No, it was, there's a certain dude we know that really loved this movie,
Yeah?
and he's a total fucking tool. And I just remember it was beloved so much by people who absolutely just didn't even get the point. They missed the point.
Yeah.
Totally like misunderstood it. Like I remember people, like it came out in 2006, obviously, yes, but like it almost like it felt like it went away for a little while, and then it came back randomly, and people were quoting it and stuff. And it was during the Obama years, and people were like, "Yeah, like." They were quoting it in order to put down the Affordable Care Act. It's like, yeah, Obamacare is, and then they would just do, remember the 5th of November. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? and the thing is, like, they totally misunderstood that there was a specific reason why this movie was put into production and released during George W. Bush. Like, this movie is meant to be a middle finger to the modern Republican Party at the time. And once again, like, the comic was, Michael, help me out here. What did Alan Moore say the comic was versus what the movie was?
The comic is anarchism versus fascism.
Right.
But he saw the movie as liberalism against, like...
Neoconservative,
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, the movie itself is obviously an interpretation and adaptation, but yeah, once again, like, all the dudes who, like, lean right, but then they'd be like, oh, both sides suck, I'm actually in the middle. It's like, no, you don't. You're just a fucking pussy. God, don't get me started right now. But yes, I have to calm down now, so somebody else take the wheel.
Go ahead, Mike.
See, that's the thing. I actually really like this movie. I think it's a really well-made movie. I mean, coming from the Wachowskis, I mean, I know they're not credited for directing, but it's basically their movie. I feel, and that's the thing. I feel like the fan base kind of ruins this movie.
Yeah.
Because it is a really good movie. I do really like this movie. I liked it ever since I saw it.
I like it too. I forgot to mention that.
I saw it. I haven't really, like, fully read the comic. I've read stuff about it, but I mean, yeah, and I think that's the thing that kind of gets taken out of context too, is that V isn't necessarily a good guy.
Right.
I mean, he has a goal. He has a mission to stop, like, the fascism that's taken over this, like, dystopian, like, England, but it's not. He's not. He's a murderer. He takes drastic measures. Like, he's an anarchist. And,
he's
like,
not a saint. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an anarchy is chaos.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing. A lot of, like, fans kind of misconstrue with this is that this was a very personal story, kind of, to Alan Moore. It was him talking about what he thought the British government could become like in the future. And and even still, the movie, it's like, it's very much about England's culture.
Yeah,
it's very much a story about England. But I just think it's crazy that, like, how this story basically, like, indirectly, like, inspired, like, the most, like, famous group of hackers in the world. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then they indirectly, like, inspired, like, a great TV show, which I haven't finished it. I haven't finished the first season, but have any of you guys watched Mr. Robot?
No.
My mom watched the first season, and she said it was great.
Yeah, it's really good, and it's basically like a fictionalized version of, like, Anonymous.
That's cool.
They even wear masks that kind of look like the Guy Fawkes masks.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
But yeah, no, I really like it. I mean, I think it's a shame that Alan Moore, like, doesn't like it. I mean, that's a whole.
Alan Moore doesn't fucking like anything.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure he really likes himself, if we're being honest.
Probably not.
I'm sorry if you were able to watch the trailers for Zack Snyder's Watchmen and not at least be intrigued, like, he's just being a dickhead.
Yeah.
But well, and then I don't know if you know this, Mike. There's actually kind of, I don't want to say conspiracy theory, because that's kind of like makes it sound way deeper and more serious. It's just a movie, but there's actually an online theory that the Wachowskis actually did direct this movie, but they just allowed their assistant director from the Matrix trilogy to have credit, like, as a favor, basically. That's just kind of.
kind of like Poltergeist, where it's Toby Hooper, but everybody said Spielberg really directed it.
Exactly. It's kind of like the new version of that. No, there is like an online theory where people are like the Wachowskis actually directed it.
Well, that's our last good movie.
Yeah. Sure, shitting Jupiter Ascending.
Oof.
I never saw that, but I heard terrible things.
Oof.
It gave me the too much macaroni sweats.
If you ever dared ask the question, what if Uwe Boll made Dune, then wonder no more.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a spot on description that it hurts.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to the next movie. I can't wait to talk about this movie just because of how fucking stupid it is. Larry the Cable Guy, Health Inspector.
Oh, God.
The first movie in the Larry the Cable Guy trilogy of shit that we had in the mid-2000s.
You have to understand that we will be the only guys who have talked about this movie since opening night.
And that's quite all right because it makes me feel happy.
Yeah.
This is like the problem is
You just want to quote our one conversation. Just go ahead, let's do it.
I will get to that, but like we lived in a town where too many people thought this was like the peak of cinema. It's such a dumb fucking movie, but you can't. There's some jokes in it that you can't help but fucking laugh at, like a 12-year-old. Like
We lived in a town where people felt that this guy was a hero on the same tier as Atticus Finch.
yeah, yeah. But to quote that conversation that Blake just mentioned, this was like a little over a year ago. Blake and I were live streaming here on Twitch, Bully on the PS2, which is a game we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
We were live streaming that, and we got on the topic of that movie, and I had pointed out how like this always tickles me about the movie, how Larry the Cable Guy Health Inspector, like he's not just the cable guy, he's also the health inspector. And Blake had asked the question like, yeah, which one is it? And I said, neither, I'm both. And that absolutely caused Blake to short circuit.
Yeah.
The video is on my personal YouTube, youtube.com/Don John. It's episode 4 of the Bully live stream.
Yeah.
And it's like 3 or 4 minutes in, and you can actually hear the sparks flying from Blake's head after I say it. It's
there was a pause. There was a pause, so you could almost hear the silence of when like the Macintosh rainbow wheel was loading on my face. I had to process it for a second, but yeah. Anyway, Lady the Cable Guy Health Inspector. Joe Pantoliano is the villain in this movie. Like, what the fuck?
I totally
the recession
forgot
had hit us all.
And I remember his entire character was that he couldn't stop looking at women's boobs. And then you have like an entire dream sequence where Kid Rock like visits him in his dream.
Yeah.
Oh god.
You're going down, you piece of crap. No way, I'm a floater.
He just like busts out of that bathroom stuff.
Yeah.
And
Nope,
that just
I'm a floater.
and that just shows how at the time like we were just at such a innocent and carefree age. Like we asked our parents for money to see this on opening night.
You might have asked your parents for money. My parents fucking rented this movie and brought it home. Yeah, that's the kind of household I grew up in.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I remember this movie was the first time you met Kogel, Michael. He went to this. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if you were aware of that, Donnie, but there's some pre your involvement in the group lore for you. There's some golden age group history. Was the first time Michael met Kogel was in Larry the Cable Guy Health Inspector. Oh It's oof,
There was,
okay.
there was a moment when he said a brown snake was playing peekaboo with his butthole.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Oh,
Blah.
yeah.
Let's move on to a slightly better movie, X-Men 3: The Last Stand.
I don't know about that one.
Now, you see,
That's a toughie.
I haven't
Yeah.
watched this movie in a while. I meant to rewatch it before the show tonight, but I didn't get a chance to. But I know like a lot of people think this movie is a steaming pile of dog shit. I never thought it was awful. Like, I mean, it's definitely at the very least out of the original trilogy of the X-Men movies, it's definitely the fucking worst. And it's definitely one of the weakest out of the entire franchise. But I never thought it was like, worthy of throwing the tomato at the screen or anything, Like, I thought it was just a disorganized mess. I thought it managed to like it totally failed to capitalize on, the previous movie in every way. But I never thought it was, I never thought it was absolutely awful. I thought it just was.
Michael, you go ahead. You go first.
Okay, so I wasn't here I wasn't here the episode you guys talked about the previous movies.
Mhm.
So I love the X-Men franchise. It's probably my favorite Marvel franchise, like comic wise and just in general. The first X-Men movie I really like. I mean, yeah, like people always say, it does feel like a glorified pilot.
Hmm.
But I still think for its time, like it's a really cool like action superhero movie. But I feel like it's very kind of grounded. It has a lot of dark undertones. The second movie still holds up. The second movie is still like one of the best like superhero sequels. I love X2, X-Men United. And I remember my hype was like through the roof for this movie. I feel like this movie was actually one of the first like movie trailers I watched like at my house on my computer like over and over again.
Yeah. It was a good trailer too for the time.
It did. It had a really good trailer, and I just remember being so disappointed when I watched it. I was kind of in disbelief at first. When I first watched it, I liked it, but then as time went on, it slowly like soured in opinion. I feel like it's kind of gone up a little bit from some of the other stuff I've seen, especially X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. It's kind of weird. I have to watch movies either multiple times or I have to let them set in because I remember really liking X-Men Origins Wolverine when I first saw it, and that movie was like a piece of crap. But I don't know. Just X-Men: The Last Stand, like they just did stuff that like constantly pissed me off. Like coming as an X-Men fan, like they would, and the thing that really pisses me off is that they would get things right, and then they would get other things like horribly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kelsey Grammer being cast as Beast was perfect.
Oh yeah.
Like amazing, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, like perfect casting, and then Ellen Page as Shadow Cat, like that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got like, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
And then like you have the bastardization of Cyclops. I mean, he's barely in the second movie.
Yeah.
And then you kill him off within like the first like 15 minutes of the movie, which I understand. Apparently, the main reason they did that is because James Marsters was busy doing Superman Returns at the time, which was just like
where his girl got stolen again.
Yeah,
that's such a weird decision, though. It's like you're not. I'm sorry, not to interrupt, but it's like obviously your character in X-Men would be a bigger deal than the role of stepdad in Superman Returns. Like,
yeah, you can either be the leader of the X-Men or you can be cucked by Superman. Like, what do you want?
But anyway, go ahead, Michael. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. And like, yeah, it's just a double header. It's like Bryan Singer left, and then he took James Marster with him, and it's just like, and then and it's just like, I feel like I've kind of I've kind of grown to like Wolverine more over time, but like it just got on my nerves at the time. Being a hardcore X-Men fan, like they just like shove Wolverine down your throat, and
Hmm.
I kind of
Yeah.
got tired of it at that point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like the humor, like there's a lot of like weird jokes that are just kind of thrown in that don't fit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like this movie kind of killed like Brett Ratner's career.
It's like Wolverine could totally be like the Han Solo of the X-Men franchise, but like again, you don't like Cyclops is still supposed to be like the Luke Skywalker, I get, or yeah, Cyclops is still supposed to be like the Luke Skywalker in a way, but like yeah, like in hindsight, like that is like really my only gripe with X2 is like Cyclops is barely in it. Like it's kind of annoying.
Hmm.
Even for X2. But then
Yeah.
with this one, like yeah, they just didn't give a shit. But and Kelsey Grammer is beast again. And I was familiar with the show Frasier at the time because I would watch it with my pop. And I remember like Michael and Andrew were telling me like, oh yeah, they got that guy from Frasier, Kelsey Grammer, to be beast, and I was like, that is
Yeah.
perfect. Like, and it's like I hate to overhype it, but like I feel like we don't. I feel like he doesn't get brought up enough in hindsight. It's like that was really like he is absolutely wasted in that movie.
Well, it was also really annoying, like, for me, Beast not being in the franchise since the first movie was always fucking annoying to me.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But no, but I mean like what his moments like when he is in it, he makes it count.
Mhm.
And yeah, no, like and he was so fun with it. And you could tell he had fun. Like
Mhm.
he wasn't one of those guys where it's like, oh, I hate doing this. I don't want to put on all this makeup. Like you could tell when Kelsey Grammer's on screen, he thought that was just the funniest shit ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear you're quite the animal. But yeah, it's just it's extra worse because it's compared to X2 X-Men United. I mean, The Last Stand is worse than Spider-Man 3. It's
Yeah.
just such a disappointing third chapter. It's all that goodwill, all that build up just squandered. And it's still amazing how in a world where we had already had X-Men The Last Stand and even Spider-Man 3 to a degree, because once again, Spider-Man 3 can be defended, but there's still flaws there.
Mhm.
In a world where we already had both of those third movies, the fact that people had the audacity to give The Dark Knight Rises shit is amazing to me. um,
People still hate that movie.
Yeah. And it makes no sense.
but back to X3, it's just so underwhelming. It really, at best, it is underwhelming. Like, yes,
Yeah.
Ellen Page, we're introduced to Ellen Page as Shadowcat, and I mean that was really one of her first big things.
Mhm.
Because the next year she did Juno, but yeah, I love Ellen Page. And then she got to be comic book redeemed later on because she was in the Umbrella Academy,
Mhm.
which she's good in that. But yeah, and then Brett Ratner, like, so Bryan Singer pieces out, and it's like, oh man, who do we have to complete the trilogy? We get the Rush Hour guy. Like, I still don't understand that logic. And yeah, it's just, and then Wolverine, like, I don't know, it all seemed phoned in. I don't know. I'm gonna be talking in circles here, but yeah, X3 just underwhelming, phoned in, a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, and I think also it just the biggest reason that it's hated so much is just because of how poorly it handled probably the most famous X-Men story, the Dark
Yeah.
Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they still can't get it right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they had a legit do-over. They got the call take back season. They still fucked it up.
Yeah.
It's the fucked up thing. Have you guys seen Dark Phoenix?
No,
I have not.
No.
I have not.
It's arguably worse than The Last Stand.
Oh wow! Now I have to watch it.
I will say though, like, I'm just gonna pretend that the X-Men franchise ended with Apocalypse because yes, Apocalypse is not amazing or perfect, but like it's still an enjoyable time, I think.
Yeah, no, it's it's just like not to get off topic, but like the Dark Phoenix, like it's so dark and drab, like it has like no emotion. They
Hmm.
don't even have like I feel like they barely even like attempt any humor. And like what they were gonna do with the villain, like I didn't see that coming. Like the villains of the movie is kind of interesting,
Hmm.
but it's and then they do the and like it's not really a spoiler, but like they just do the same old shit with fucking Magneto, and it's
Oh, we're
like,
yeah.
like the most wasted actor and character of all time. Like Michael Fassbender as Magneto in First Class was perfect,
Mm-hmm.
and even in Days of Future Past, like he had less to do, but what he did do was great. But like
Mm-hmm.
even in Apocalypse, they just keep doing the same thing. It's like, oh well, Magneto goes off into his own thing, and then they bring him back. And it's like, oh, is he a bad guy or is he a good guy? Like,
Yeah.
The animated series did that a lot too.
yeah, it's like,
And that was what Nick Mundy said, where he's like, you got to give it to Bryan Singer. He made millions of dollars to just make the same movie over and over again. Because how many times does Magneto do something bad and Charles Xavier just forgives him by the last 5 minutes of the movie?
Yeah.
at that, that it happens fucking again.
I'll fucking do it again.
Yeah, it's just like Jesus.
Let's move on to the next movie, Cars by Pixar. I've mentioned before, Cars is like the Cars franchise as a whole is like just my least favorite bit of the Pixar lexicon.
Yeah.
Like so much so, I've only seen Cars 1 and I've never seen Cars 2 or 3. I have no desire to watch Cars 2 or 3. I mean, I just feel like it's a movie that lacks really any sort of depth. I mean, it's very paper thin just on the surface. Just, what if cars had feelings? Um, I do have a funny story about Cars 3 though. I remember when the movie first got announced, I was sitting in when they had like the first previews going in the theaters for Cars 3. I forget what movie I was seeing with my ex, and the preview came up for Cars 3. And like the whole trailer is literally just Lightning McQueen wiping out on the track and like eating shit, and his tires are flying off and everything. And it just comes up and says Cars 3, and I just go, huh, we'll miss you 3. And this big fucking dude sitting right in front of us just goes
You tickled his fan.
oh yeah.
Um,
But you guys go ahead and talk about Cars.
um, honestly, I have virtually nothing to say about the movie itself. I mean, I don't dislike it. Like, I saw it once and I was just like, huh. And then I just moved on with my life. But yeah, 2006, instead of like the year of the dragon or the snake, 2006 was definitely the year of the cable guy.
Yeah.
But no, the main thing to be said is like, it's amazing how for years all anybody wanted was a sequel to The Incredibles, but instead Disney was like, "Oh, you mean a Cars trilogy?" Like,
Yeah.
once again, I will repeat that. We got an entire Cars trilogy before we got The Incredibles 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about it. So go ahead, Mike.
That's all I had to say about that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm kind of in the same ballpark. I saw Cars once and never watched it again. I didn't watch the sequels because I heard 2 was terrible and I heard 3 was decent enough, but at that point, like, I hadn't seen 2. I had watched the first one like years ago, so I was like, well, what's the point of watching 3?
Yeah.
I remember my little brother, like, he really liked it when he was like really, really little, but I don't think he's ever mentioned it since. Because I don't know, and that's the thing. I feel like when it came out, it was everywhere. I mean, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. Like, I like Pixar movies when they come out, they always have like big marketing and stuff like that. But I think, and I noticed like a lot of fans were like grown-ups,
Yeah.
like mainly like car dudes, like car grease monkey dude bros would like go to Walmart and like collect like the cars, and I'm just like, okay,
The cars. I love it.
cars. The cars.
I gotta get my vroom vrooms.
No,
The
no, like
Disney Pixar cars.
I'll definitely second that. Like, like there wasn't really much merchandise to sell to kids about Up, other than I guess you want to sell them like the play set for the hospital bed, but um, and then like with Wally, it's like okay, you can have like a Roomba version of Wally, but it's
I
like,
always forget Wally even fucking existed.
but no, like to add to Michael's point, I think like they went like full blast on the merchandise for Cars.
Yeah, they did. Like anything they could have slapped it on, they did.
Oh yeah, I mean like yeah, like car bumper stickers, car racetracks, car ventilators,
Car
like they
cars.
did it all. Car cars. I do love like the sarcastic fan theory that like Cars is the aftermath of Maximum Overdrive and there's another movie, Christine. Yeah, Christine, Maximum Overdrive, and then Cars takes place in the future.
They killed all the humans and then they start talking.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I honestly think that would be a very horrifying apocalypse. It's like the most famous sentient car just has Owen Wilson's voice.
Ka-choo.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh God, I hate it. No. I got no beef with Owen Wilson.
Just as no.
The only thing worse than Cars was that fucking spinoff with Dane Cook, Planes.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
They got a spin-off too. Like fuck.
my nephew like was all about those two movies. Like it was Planes and then Planes Fire and Rescue. He was all about that. So
All right, question of the night: does Lightning McQueen have life insurance or car insurance?
car insurance.
All right.
Yeah.
Does
Both
SpongeBob have flood insurance?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next movie. Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest. In my opinion, this is the best Pirates of the Caribbean movie. It's like the first one, like we talked before about how Curse of the Black Pearl was like the return of like the fun summer adventure. Dead Man's Chest just like kicks up to 11. Like it's just even more fun, even more action, just even more of like all of that. And I mean, it's definitely better than World's End. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you guys got to say about Dead Man's Chest?
Go ahead, Mike.
Also, like, let's just take a minute and talk about like the fucking like what they did, how they did Davy Jones in that movie's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I'll give it that.
Yeah.
That's like the way motion capture should be.
Yeah.
Well, because you can tell in his face, like he still looks like Bill Nighy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Again, go ahead, Mike. You can talk first on that.
Yeah, no, I agree with Donnie. It's probably my personal favorite of the trilogy. Because I say that too because I haven't seen 4 and 5, which I'm gonna say they probably don't top it. But
You're not missing out.
But yeah, no, I don't know. I always thought the plot with Davy Jones was really cool. I mean, they could have wrapped it up a little better.
Mm-hmm.
But like just the aesthetic of like, I feel like they made like a good jump from like the villains of the first movie to the second movie. Like Barbossa, it was like the cursed pirates, and like they look like they're undead. But then you go to Davy Jones and like the Flying Dutchman, like how it can go underwater like a submarine,
Mm-hmm.
and all his crew members like they look like they're like part fish or some kind of sea creature.
Mm-hmm.
And even like with like Will Turner's dad, like how he has like the starfish and all the stuff like stuck to his face. I always liked his like Davy Jones's like right hand man who was like a hammerhead shark guy.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought he was really cool looking. And I liked how I liked how they had the side villain with like the East India Trading Company.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of liked him at first, but then like by the third movie they were kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and I will say though that one of the things that I didn't like about Dead Man's Chest is that I feel like they were starting. I mean, even though Johnny Depp was top billed,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like the Wolverine thing we just had, like, or the Han Solo argument. Like, I feel like Jack Sparrow is better as like
The supporting.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like, but since everybody loves him, like he has to be the main character now. Because like Will was kind of the hero, but then he kind of gets put on the back burner now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my problems.
And I remember even like, I mean, I know like they eventually like at the end of the movie, like when like Keira Knightley kisses like Jack Sparrow, it's just a distraction to like string him up or whatever, like to tie him to the mast. But like the whole thing where like Jack Sparrow keeps looking at the compass and like it points to what you want the most, and it keeps pointing to her. Like I didn't like how they were doing this whole like love triangle thing, and I'm like,
Oh, fucking gag me.
yeah, I was like, really? Like, are you gonna have Jack Sparrow like steal Will Turner's girl? Like, that's fucking lame.
2006, the year of the cuck.
Yeah.
Jeez, you pee! Stop.
And I don't know, I just liked how it was like, it was like the first movie, they were going after a treasure, like it was like Davy Jones's heart in the chest and stuff like that, and fighting. I love the whole scene where they're like fighting over the keys and like the chest, and they keep going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's just an overall fun movie. I wish there were more movies like that nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I still prefer the first one, mainly because the first one does actually have an ending, and my issue with Dead Man's Chest is, and it's a fun time, it's a fun movie, but like the main thing for me that holds it back is that it's my same issue with The Matrix Reloaded, is that it's a part 2 that is just one giant setup for part 3. So how I remember this part 2 completely ultimately depends on what I think of part 3. And Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End is just an absolute chore that I did not like at all. So that ultimately just kind of dirties Dead Man's Chest for me. And then but I mean, you want to talk, nobody was more excited for this movie than my dad. He loved, I mean, I'm surprised he never got a Black Pearl neck tattoo, but he loved the first movie. And keep in mind, like, he was so pumped for this one. My brother-in-law took him to the midnight premiere for it, like in like the Virginia, DC area. Like, my dad, who falls asleep at 8 p.m., was so excited for this movie. At 60 years old, he went to the midnight premiere for it. Like, if that doesn't paint as perfect a picture as you need, I don't know what will. And then with me, I was very sore at it because my favorite movie that summer, or the movie that I was most excited for, was Superman Returns. And this movie basically aided in the murdering of Superman Returns' box office. Like, it was just the movie that just completely overshadowed it. And then when I wanted to see Superman Returns a second time, I wanted to go with my sister. She drove me to the theater. It was the second weekend. It was the second weekend for Superman Returns, first weekend for Pirates of the Caribbean. And they were like, oh, well, Superman Returns is sold out because Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest sold out. So everybody who still wanted to see a movie just went into Superman Returns, so they had something to see. And I remember just going home in the car being like, I fucking hate Dead Man's Chest so much.
Well, I mean, the plot of Superman Returns didn't really help its box office either.
True. But yeah, so it was just a bad. Superman Returns just did not get the timing right at all. But, and also, like, if anyone, well, literally nobody's going to be wondering this, but I personally requested for Superman Returns to be omitted from this episode because I have an idea for a future episode that I would bring it up in. So that's why, just in case you're like, well, if you love Superman Returns so much, why don't you talk about it later this episode? But that's why. So I digest.
Oh yeah, I forgot to say, like, I always really like the even though like you said, it just leads to a third parter. I really like the twist in Dead Man's Chest.
Oh no, yeah, I agree.
I mean, like, the movie's fucking 14 years old now, but yeah, Barbossa comes back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh no, the final shot. I mean, yes, I was kind of ragging it for being a to be continued, but the final scene in the movie is like super fun. Like it puts a grin on your face.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was another reason why like I was disappointed with at World's End because like I was like, oh, Barbosa's gonna be a good guy now. That's actually kind of cool. And then like, yeah. But yeah, nobody had more fun in these movies than Jeffrey Rush. Like he had an absolute blast, you could tell.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Next movie, Clerks 2. This is another great buddy night movie. I finally saw Clerks 2 for the first time, like maybe a year or two ago. And I mean, I love this movie. I love the original Clerks. I hope Clerks 3 gets off the ground.
Yeah.
When it comes to the question of what's better, Clerks 1 or Clerks 2, honestly, personally, I think they're pretty equal for different reasons. I love how Clerks 2 has a more, I guess, heartfelt and personal story in the sense of, the story of one friend being depressed that his best friend is leaving forever, potentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just, dealing with that, and then on top of the feelings of feeling like, I peaked a long time ago and I got no direction in my life. There's also just a ton of like really outrageous quotable moments in this movie. I mean, nothing more outrageous than the donkey scene, of course.
Kinky Kelly and the sexy stud.
Yep.
Ooh, cake.
Mike, what do you got to say about Clerks 2?
I love Clerks 2. It's one of my favorite comedies. I really just remember watching it in the movie theater and just laughing like from start to finish.
Hey, I'm bringing it back.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I'm taking it back. You watch. But but no, I just like it's so funny from start to finish. I think I love Kevin Smith movies. I actually think this one is better than Clerks 1. I think Clerks 1 is very it's kind of a little more like dry humor.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Where this one, it has more heart, it has more kind of like laugh out loud slapstick stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Clerks 1 is much more Clerks 1 is more about the situations, whereas Clerks 2 is more about the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Just there's so many jokes that are great in that movie.
I love the whole argument over Star Wars versus Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one return, and it's not of the king, it's of the Jedi. And then he just makes fun of like how they just walk all three movies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Then he's like, even the fucking trees walked in that movie. Randall's just hilarious. A little like piece of trivia about me with the movie. When I went to Sci-Fi Valley Con a few years ago with my brother, Brian O'Halloran, the guy who plays Dante, was actually there.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to meet him and talk to him real quick. And he actually I brought my copy of Clerks 2 on DVD, and he autographed it for me.
I met him at that same convention, and he autographed my copy of Clerks 1, and he spelled my name wrong.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So thanks, Dante.
That's funny. It's like, how do you mess up Donnie?
He spelled it with a Y. Like everyone I've known since middle school.
Oh, wow. But I love it. He put a quote when he signed it, and he put, "You never go ass to mouth."
Yeah, on mine he put, "I'm 37 ?"
Yeah, no, that was great. Yeah, but I actually met the guy too who he was in the first movie. He was the guy like who was like the anti-smoking thing, and like he was just working for a gum company.
I remember that dude being there and just thinking like, wow, this is kind of sad.
Hey, you got to pay the bills somehow, man.
Right.
Got your one claim to fame.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, he was really nice. No, I love Clerk. That's the thing. I would die just meet Kevin Smith and just talk to him. That would be awesome. I mean, he
I
hasn't
mean,
really.
you roll a big enough doobie, he'll show up on the podcast, I'm sure.
Yeah. But yeah, no, he hasn't really made any great movies recently. I didn't get to see the new Jay and Silent Bob.
It's
I
good.
think is it good?
I liked it. I mean, if you like Jay and Silent Bob, you're gonna like it. You're gonna like it, and you're gonna know exactly what to expect.
Okay. I was just kind of worried how it didn't go to it didn't have like a worldwide or like a big release at least.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, that doesn't seem like it's good. But yeah, because he was kind of going in a different direction. Like he was making like horror movies, and then he did Yoga Hosers, which Yoga Hosers was okay.
I didn't see it.
It was just kind of like a fun movie he did with his daughter and his daughter's friend, which I mean it was okay. It felt really like low budget, but no, I love Clerks too. It's definitely one of my favorite comedies ever.
Yeah, I agree. I love Clerks 2. I think it surpasses the first one. The first one is a great start. It's a great beginning, especially for Kevin Smith. But Clerks 2 is just more profound, emotionally. It deals with regret, potential, nostalgia. I think Clerks 2 is just funnier. Clerks 1, once again, yeah, I agree with you guys. It's just more dry, but yeah, I mean, because of that movie, I never did this before, but because of that movie, I actually really do get Anne Frank mixed up with Helen Keller, and it didn't happen until I saw that movie.
You see, the funny thing is, I actually did that a lot before I ever saw that movie.
I never did that beforehand, but then after I saw that movie, I do it.
She's blind as Anne Frank.
Oh,
I love the end where he explains that Helen Keller's the blind, deaf, and dumb girl that had the miracle worker, and he's just like, oh, okay. Then who the fuck's Anne Frank?
She hid from the Nazis. She wrote the diary. And then the entire joke where he's trying to take a certain name back. It's okay, I'm bringing it back.
Fucking Wanda Sykes and her husband oh, come on, baby, you can't taste racism.
I mean, it's not like they called us that.
Yeah.
And oh god, and then what's his name? Who? He's not the same character, but he was the Jason. Oh shoot, he was the main character in Mallrats.
Jason Lee.
Jason Lee. He's in this as Pickle Fucker.
Pickle Fucker.
Oh man! And then
just hearing his nickname just makes you laugh.
And then this movie basically announced that there was going to be a Transformers movie because there's an entire conversation about that. And I wonder if there was anybody who was watching this movie, or just not the people that surf the web and Jesus Christ, when's the last time anyone literally said surf the web? But anyway,
yeah.
Not people that keep up with movie news and stuff, but they saw this movie and they're like, oh yeah, well they just made up a random conversation. They just wanted to make a Transformers joke. And then they see that there actually is a Transformers movie coming out the next summer, and they're like, oh my god, Clerks 2 wasn't lying. Yeah, and then I like the character of what's his name? His real name's Trevor in real life, but he was like the new kid. He was like the Elias.
Elias.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually really liked him. I thought he was a really good addition.
He was, I love when he's talking to Pickle Fucker. I forget what he's talking about. And then Randall gets mad at him. He's like, "Shut the fuck up, GoBot." And then Pickle Fucker's like, "Hey, go easy on him. They're like the Kmart Transformers."
Yeah. And then the entire story about pillow pants. It's just women.
It's just scary music as he's telling it.
Yeah.
And You guys have kissed at least. He's like, we would if it wasn't for Lister Fiend.
Lister Fiend is her mouth troll, isn't it? Oh, women.
I love when the donkey show's happening and he's all fucking drunk. He's like, I hope that donkey doesn't have a hiney troll.
I was surprised to never see him in anything else. Like, I was a little bummed out with that. I don't know, when I see something like that happen, it's like, really? Nobody else making comedies at the time saw that and was like, oh, wait, yeah, I think I have a spot for him in my movie. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't help but think that. But no, I thought he was a good addition. Rosario Dawson was great. And it's just a much more profound, heartfelt story. And honestly, like, if Kevin Smith never makes another View Askew-niverse, Jay and Silent Bob universe movie, and he never gets to make Clerks 3, Clerks 2 is honestly, like, probably as perfect an ending as you can make.
Yeah, it does have a good ending.
Yeah.
No, it's probably a near perfect ending.
Have you guys heard what the plot for Clerks 3 supposedly is supposed to be?
I hear he keeps changing it, but what have you heard?
The last I heard, and like if this ends up being the case, I think it's a great way to go. Apparently, the last I heard, the plot for Clerks 3 is that basically, it goes full meta, where basically somebody comes in to film like a biopic documentary about like the convenience store and like their shenanigans that have happened in it over the years. So it goes like full circle, full meta.
Well, that's
Yeah,
cool.
'cause that's what Kevin Smith actually did in real life. He worked at the quick stop with his friends.
No, like what's really crazy more than anything, because it ends with Dante and Rosario Dawson. They're gonna have a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, by the time they would make Clerks 3, like their kid would be in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The plot will definitely have to revolve around like the kid's reaction to them being their parents.
Yeah. And then I remember like Kevin Smith's daughter. She cameoed in the movie. Like she was the little kid in the restaurant that Dante waves to.
Yeah.
I was like, now she's an adult making movies. So
Yeah.
that's how much time has passed.
Yeah. It's a beautiful movie. It's funny and it's a beautiful movie. I love it.
Let's move on to Talladega Nights, the Ballad of Ricky Bobby.
Hi, I'm Ricky Bobby. If you don't do Big Red, then fuck you.
I'm about to jump on you like a spider monkey.
I'm
With all-
on Mountain Dew.
You can't talk to me like that. Yes, I can. I said with all due respect. You could say whatever you want to someone as long as you start with all due respect. It's in the Geneva Convention.
Yeah. I may be 10 years old, but I'll beat your ass.
This is another movie that's just like completely fucking stupid, but you can't help but quote it and laugh at it.
Go ahead, Dottie.
No, you go ahead.
Nobody laughed harder at this movie. I remember Michael, Andrew, and I went to see it with my family in Virginia opening weekend. And, like, nobody laughed harder at this movie than my brother-in-law. Like, he was crying. He was in tears. And he's not, like, he's a very reserved, neutral, mild, person. But he was, like, laughing at this until he had tears rolling down his face. You can almost quote the entire movie from beginning to end, but my personal favorite joke was the one-off, standalone, completely dropped-off joke where John C. Reilly moves into his house because he starts a relationship with his wife.
Yeah.
And his house is haunted.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, man, I think your house is haunted. And he's like, what? And he asks him, like, why are you trying to turn up the stereo and the TV at the same time? Because I like to party. And he hangs up. He hangs up the phone, and you just hear the house go, get out.
Yeah.
And he looks around. The best thing about that joke is, like, they never come back to it. Like, that's it. Like, the house is haunted. That's it.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's my personal favorite. Michael, you go ahead.
I fucking love this movie. It may be, it's hard. I mean, my favorite Will Ferrell movie is definitely Step Brothers, but like this is very, very close. I don't know. I felt like I had a personal connection with this movie because my dad is really into NASCAR. Like he's a big NASCAR fan,
Yeah.
and I think that made this movie like even funnier because like I mean I wasn't like I mean I respect the sport and everything, but I was never like a fan of NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
I just, I'd watched it with my dad, but that's just what made it funny is that I would actually watch the real like NASCAR than seeing this, and it's just so funny like what they do with it. And I feel like this movie has like a lot of like subtle little jokes that are really funny.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love at the end where they because the whole thing like they've had like the whole thing where Cal Naughton Jr., who's John C. Reilly, like married like Ricky Bobby's wife, like stole his wife, and then they're like shaking bacon. He's like, nope, never again. He's like, you're the magic man, and I'm El Diablo. Oh wow, El Diablo, that's cool. What's that mean? It's like Spanish for a fighting chicken. I thought that was so funny.
I also love how his kids were named Walker and Texas Ranger.
Yeah. And then the wife's like, she's like, if we were raising a bunch of sissies, we'd name them Dr. Quinn and Medicine Woman.
And Jane Lynch is his mom. That was fucking great.
Oh, his dad was perfect
Yeah,
too.
Kevin Bacon.
And
No, Gary
no,
Cole.
Gary Coleman. Gary Coleman.
No, Gary Cole.
Gary Cole. I'm sorry, Gary Coleman. Jesus Christ.
What you talking about?
What you talking about, Willie? What you talking about, Ricky?
I think I flubbed worse than it being Kevin Bacon, but
The Gary Cole looks like Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, he really does.
that's one of like my personal runner-up jokes. Is like you expect this big confrontation, this profound like double meaning or whatever, but he's like, I based my whole life around what you told me. I lived every day based on what you said to me when I was a kid. You said if you ate first, you last, and then the answer is just simply, oh hell, Ricky, I was high when I said that.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is like, you already knew he was because when you rewatch that scene when he comes in when he's like a preteen, he's like, how long has it been, son? He's like, 10 years. He's like, whoa, I got to lay off the peyote.
Yeah.
But when he gets first kicked out of the restaurant, he just screams, Applebee's has rats. I found one in my Cobb salad.
Yeah, I found one in my Cobb salad. No, I just love where he's like, if you ain't first, you're last. I live my life by that. Well, shit, Ricky, that doesn't make any sense. You can be first, second, third, fourth. Hell, you can even be fifth. No, that and like Sacha Baron Cohen as the quote unquote villain, like, is so funny.
Yeah.
I love her, like, he turns on, like, the classical music, and they're like, hey! He's like, turn that shit off! He's like, why is it on the jukebox? And the bartender's just like, we keep it on there so we can profile people. We also got the Pet Shop Boys and Seal. And then I gotta throw it to one of the, like, quick, like, little jokes that, like, has me fucking dying is, like, it's right before that part, and, like, his pit crew is, like, there at the bar. And the one pit crew member is like, oh, it's my grandma's birthday's coming up. It's like, but I don't know what to get her. I mean, she's 87. And the other pit crew guy just goes, get her a coffin. That's the way.
I loved Michael Clark Duncan as his pit crew chief.
Oh,
don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Oh, that's probably like the I mean, other than like all the little small jokes, that's probably the great scene in it is like when he stabs his own leg. They're just like, okay, we're going to use this knife to pry it out, and then put a second knife in his leg.
Yeah, it's like, we're going to cut around.
I hope you both have beautiful, beautiful sons, and I hope they can't walk.
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Don't you put that evil on me.
And then I love Michael Clark Duncan's moment in the bloopers when he's like, sometimes I like to dress up like Donna Summers. Last chance. Romance.
And Will Ferrell just starts like busting the hell out.
Yeah.
And then he's trying to act like he's hurt, and then he starts coughing. He's like, I'm choking on my own spit.
And then you just like the fake commercials where it's like life insurance or whatever, and John C. Reilly's like, the darkness is creeping on your loved ones as we speak.
And they talk about like it's like wild dogs that have taken over like half of the city.
Just like when there's a movie like that, you have to think like if the movie's like 2 hours long, there has to be like 6 hours of bloopers. Like how can you do any of those scenes with a straight face on the first take?
Yeah. No, I don't know if I told you guys. I actually not too long ago, I bought like a Ricky Bobby like Wonder Bread hat. Like it's the white hat with like flames on it.
Oh damn!
Like Leanne looks at me. She's like, "You're really not gonna go in public with that, are you?"
You goddamn better believe it.
I was like, "Yes, I am."
Great.
Next movie, Accepted. Now, this, I don't want to say it's an underrated movie, but it is kind of a movie that flew under the radar, and it is a funny movie. And I think in a lot of ways it does bring up a lot of good talking points about like the modern American college system and how it takes advantage of its students. And it does have some great humor in it. But I will never forgive this movie for making people like this is the beginning of when people started taking Lewis Black way too fucking seriously.
Yeah.
Like Lewis Black is a much better person than Joe Rogan is, but this in a way he was Joe Rogan before Joe Rogan. Too many white dudes took Lewis Black seriously, and it's like he's just a comedian who's like angry all the time. Like there's nothing profound going on here.
Well, I remember one of the things you said about your one buddy who like loved him. You're like, okay, Lewis Black, it's one thing to think he has a funny joke here and there, but it's another thing to act like he's a prophet speaking the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. Well, what else is there to say about Accepted?
I mean, like I said, it's just a funny movie that kind of flew under the radar. I mean, the whole premise of the movie about how, a kid who couldn't get into college kind of like starts his own college so his parents don't get mad at him. And I mean, like I said, in the process of, creating that college and like other kids coming to that school because they're like, shit, we didn't get into school either and we're just trying to find a place to belong. Like,
yeah.
Because this came out when, I was starting high school and then like, starting to think about college. It really kind of spoke to me in that sense in terms of, trying like, when you're going to college and you're moving on after high school, trying to find your place in the world, trying to find where you belong in the world. And like I said, I also think it just brings up some points about how and not in necessarily a highbrow way, but it does bring up some points about how some decent talking points about how the college system does, take advantage of its students in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But that's what I got to say about it. And this was also another early Jonah Hill role.
Oh yeah, ask me about my wiener.
Ask me about my wiener.
Again,
about my wiener.
Once again, like to time travel back to the set when he's in the hot dog costume and everyone's like, "Oh, get it?" Like the fat curly-haired kid is in the hot dog costume. Just to bounce back then and be like, "Hey, guess who's going to have 2 Oscar nominations within 10 years?" But no, it's a very fun, admirable, charming, good-natured movie. It's just modern day PG-13 Animal House in a way.
Yeah.
And I remember, yeah, and it's just like, every several years I have the random urge to rewatch it. And I remember like a few years ago, I watched it like twice in the same week. Just like, it's just a very like pleasant comedy to have on.
Yeah.
And I just remember Trevor and I hanging out with our one friend Dennis one night, and Dennis just literally says, "Man, when I watch Accepted, it just gets me so mad because I watch it, I'm like, man, why can't college be like that in real life?" And Trevor goes, "That's the entire plot of the movie. That's the entire point of the story." But yeah, and it's just, I don't know. I think this is an underrated. I think it is okay to call it an underrated movie because it is. It was. I'm sure it was popular and remembered for the rest of that year, but then like it just kind of just went away. And I feel like Justin Long as a protagonist was underrated and underappreciated. He's a very relatable person when you see him in anything. And yeah, no, I wish, I don't know, I just wish he had done more, or people had put him in more. I'm sure he's doing fine, and like he pops up here and there now and then, but no, I think we kind of took him for granted as like the relatable like millennial everyman. So that's what I have to say about it. You go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I love Justin Long. He's a very underrated actor. I wish he would have gotten bigger. I mean, he had like that like mid 2000s where he was like in a lot of movies.
hmm
I just wish like he kind of stuck around more.
There was almost a race going on between like him and Shia LaBeouf for like who was going to be like, the big star, like, of their kind of like age range, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, him, Justin Long, and Emil Hirsch. It felt like all three of them were in a race with each other. They were trying to be like the next like star who like, was just like the slim millennial like brown haired dude.
Yeah, it's like, and now all three of them don't really do much.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Jonah Hill Jonah Hill. Shia LaBeouf kind of made himself become an indie darling more than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really like Justin Long. I always liked him. He was really good in Live Free or Die Hard.
Oh yeah.
It's one of my personal favorite horror films, Jeepers Creepers. He's like the lead. Him and the girl who plays the sister are like the lead characters. I always thought he was really good in that. Yeah, no, I really wish he would get more work. He kept being in like the later Kevin Smith movies. Like he was in Zack and Miri Make a Porno, and then he was in Tusk, and then he was in Yoga Hosers.
Yeah, he's like the experienced pornographic like legendary actor in Zack and Miri.
Yeah, and he's married to Brandon Routh.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I mean, as far as Accepted goes, no, I feel like it's an underrated feel-good movie. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to watch. I always like that the name they come up for their school is the South Harmon Institute for Technology, and their initials are shit.
Yeah.
I never even realized that.
Yeah, and like the students, they call themselves the shitheads.
Yeah.
Like the student body. Wasn't Blake Lively was the love interest in that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think that was like one of her first movies she was in, because I know she was like in television, but I think that was like one of her first movies.
Yeah, that was probably when she was like doing Gossip Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just a fun, feel good. I feel like there's a lot of those like comedies they've kind of gotten lost in the shuffle. Like I can't remember this movie, the year this movie came out. It's probably a couple years from now, or a couple years from 2006. But when I think of this movie, I always think of like Sex Drive too.
Sex Drive was like 2009, and that is a criminally underrated movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that movie is more raunchier than this movie, but I feel like they kind of have the same feel. Like it's like a raunchy college level story, but with heart.
Yeah. Well, and I think like in a broad sense, in a general sense, like I kind of miss the era of the like late high school, early college, like buddy comedy. Just high school comedies and college comedies, like Mean Girls and this. And then also like this is a PG-13 rated like movie. Like if it were to be attempted today, they would automatically make it R, and they would have like, and I'm not trying to clench my pearls on this one, but it's just like they would force it to be raunchy for the sake of being raunchy, as opposed to like if the creators and writers of the story just intended for that to begin with.
Right.
But yeah, like now it's like you either have to be like a cartoon or a superhero movie, or if you're going to be a comedy, it automatically has to be rated R. Like,
right.
It's just not as diverse anymore, I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah. Back to you though, Mike. I didn't mean to take it from you.
No, that's pretty much all I got.
Yeah.
Well, then let's move on to our next movie, Idiocracy. Now, I love this movie, but I also hate it at the same time because, for similar reasons to V for Vendetta, this was a movie that way too many people took fucking seriously. Like, it spawned all these people who, for the longest time, ooh, this is what America's actually gonna be like. This is what we're actually turning into. It's like, it's just a fucking movie, dude. Like, but goddamn, is this movie so fucking funny. So many quotes, too. And Dax Shepard played his role way too fucking well in this movie. I mean, how many times have we said that line to each other? Go away, Baton.
Not literally, but yes. Yeah.
Carl's Jr., fuck you, I'm eating.
Your entire family is now owned by Carl's Jr. And then just, no, speaking of go away Baton, just like when he's watching the Baton Network and he's just, it's just like that commercial of a foot cutting a steak with a knife and fork. He's just like, oh yeah, cut me a piece. But
Brondo's got what plants crave. It's got electrolytes. Do you even know what electrolytes are? Do you even know? No, you gotta use water. You mean like from the toilet? It doesn't have to be from the toilet, but yes.
it's just like the Secretary of Education is that one guy in the corner of the room staring at a snow globe.
Yeah.
It's just the look on his face.
President Herbert Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Herbert Camacho.
So you're smart, huh? I thought your head would be bigger. Oh, shoot. I will say, though, with this movie, the first half is way better than the second half. I think the setup is just funnier. But yeah, like Dax Shepard, like he's almost a little too good at his role. And but no, like Luke Wilson is very relatable as like the confused everyman.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, yeah, no, in a way, some parts of this movie turned out to be a little prophetic. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying, how it almost became like too easy of a joke, too cliche, the hack joke almost, where it's just like, oh man, this is just like Idiocracy. It's like, oh wow, bro, you should do stand up.
Yeah.
But no.
I also love how Idiocracy, you know, because this was directed by Mike Judge. I love how it's like on the it's like so much of it's so different. It's like a polar opposite from his last movie, Office Space.
Yeah.
Which is another movie that I love. Like,
Office Space.
Yeah, Office Space, very low key, very dry, very I guess slow. Whereas Idiocracy it's not very raunchy, but it's kind of raunchy, and it's just it's closer to Beavis and Butthead.
I love Justin Long's role in it, where he's like the doctor that diagnoses him.
Yeah.
And he's just like, so basically, and pardon me, everyone, I'm just quoting the movie, like, basically, your shit's all retarded. But then he's like, I don't know why this always tickled me, but when he notices he doesn't have a tattoo, he goes, why come no tattoo? Yeah. It's just a movie that tickles the shit out of you.
Yeah.
What about you, Mike?
Actually, it's like I've never seen this movie.
Really?
No.
Shit.
I don't. Honestly, I haven't even seen parts of this movie. I don't even know what the plot is of this movie. This movie like completely missed my radar.
Oh wow.
I remember hearing the title and like knowing it's like a Luke Wilson movie, but yeah, no. I mean, I love Office Space, but no, like I don't even know the plot. Like you would have to tell me.
Honestly, like, just watch it. Like, maybe just go in as fresh. I mean, I know we just quoted a lot of good jokes from it, but try to go in fresh. But see if it's streaming on anything you have, and no, check it out, because I would definitely love to hear the reaction of someone that went in, like, you know, not knowing the story from start to finish.
Yeah.
But it's
I actually really like Luke Wilson better than Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
And I always loved Luke Wilson in Old School as the lead.
The Godfather.
Yeah, The Godfather.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is like I can't. What's the name of the actor who's the lead in Office Space? I think it's Ron something.
Ron. He's the father of the family in The Conjuring.
Yeah.
Ron Livingston.
Yeah. And this thing, he always kind of reminded me of Luke Wilson a little bit.
Yeah, they were like the relatable everymen.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'll have to watch it soon.
Yeah.
Welcome to
Yeah.
Costco. I love you.
In Office Space, Ron Livingston was basically the blueprint to Jason Bateman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which Jason Bateman. Well, no, was this a Mike Judge movie? Extract?
Yes.
Yeah. So there we go.
Never saw it though.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's got a funny cameo by Gene Simmons.
You know,
Well,
it's a weird piece of trivia about Mike Judge. Well, not really trivia, but like I don't know if you guys know. He was. Do you remember? You guys have seen the Spy movies, right?
yeah, the first one. When I know I saw all three of them. The first three, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you remember on the second one, like there was like the two kids that like were kind of the bad spy kids, but they end up being just good anyways in the third movie.
Mm-hmm.
I totally forget that, but go ahead.
Oh well, like Mike Judge plays their dad, like he's. And like he's in the third movie, like him and Selma Hayek plays his wife, like they're the ones that make like the technology to put Junie into like the game or whatever, you know what I mean?
All right, that's bullshit right there, because there's no way Selma Hayek would marry someone like Mike fucking Judge.
For
That's where you go.
the longest time, I thought Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite was Mike Judge. Like, because I don't know, when you see the actor who plays Uncle Rico, he looks like he could be Mike Judge's long lost brother.
Yeah. I can see.
So
Because they're both bald?
yeah, it's basically how people are like, oh well, the guy from Breaking Bad should be Lex Luthor.
Because he's bald.
Oh yeah, Amy Adams should be Beverly in It too.
Because she's bald.
Oh yeah, cut me a slice.
Next movie, Borat.
Oh fuck.
This started the trend of Sacha Baron Cohen making a movie where he literally just spends 2 hours going, hey, I'm foreign and kind of homoerotic. Let's make people uncomfortable.
Very nice.
Like, you know what? It was funny when you did it in Borat, and Bruno had some interesting parts, but by the time you got to the dictator, it got really old.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can appreciate Borat, just, you know, the whole premise of, you know, let's just go around with a camera and act like this is like a legitimate documentary and just fuck with people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That being said, though, nothing. It's been so long since I've seen this movie. No like specific moments really jump out to me beyond like the general premise of the movie. So I'm gonna bounce it to you guys.
I just saw this movie for the first time like 4 or 5 years ago. I did not see it for like the first, you know, like 8-9 years, you know, after it came out.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's funny. Obviously, I didn't see it. Once again, I didn't see it when it came out. I was a little too young for it, maybe. I don't know. Like, I remember hearing like stories of like classmates where like their family went to see it together on Thanksgiving, and it's just like of all movies you could have picked, but all right.
Yeah.
And I know this isn't the movie's fault, I guess, but like it became annoyingly impossible to escape hearing this movie quoted everywhere you went. Like there was two of them. It was that puppet guy with the, you know, Middle Eastern puppet that was a skeleton. I forget
Jeff
the name
Dunham.
of anything. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like if I had to hear Silence, I Kill You or Very Nice in the hallway one more day, like I was going to hit my head off the locker. But in a way, though, like, I have to give it respect because when was the last time there was a single comedy that came out in theaters and literally everyone had to quote it all the time? Like, I guess it was Step Brothers, but, like, there wasn't many of those comedies throughout the 2010s, really, I feel like. But, yeah, like, there was Borat, there was Mean Girls, there was Superbad. But then, like, once again, like, as soon as, like, the decade began of the 2010s, it's almost like that comedy went away. Like, everyone tried to make that next thing. And it would be relevant for a little bit, like 21 Jump Street or This Is the End, but it was hard to capture that because, like, once again, like, the Borat references were everywhere. It was amazing.
Yeah. Well, did you see that they like randomly announced the sequel like the other day?
Yeah, it's gonna come out. It's gonna come out on Amazon Prime like next month.
Yeah, apparently the whole thing had been like filmed in secret.
Yeah, which I guess that's an accomplishment in a way. But
Right.
I'll be curious to see how he pulled it off because if he made it any time within the last 10 years, like it's like, dude, everyone's gonna know who you are.
Right.
Because
at that point, it's basically the equivalent of him walking around with the Groucho Marx glasses.
Exactly. Like, he was able to get away with it with the first Borat, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then even with Bruno, like, Bruno, he was able to, because he changed his look for it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, in that, I feel like that was why The Dictator wasn't, like, in the format of a documentary. Like, it was, like, in the format of, like, a regular narrative, like, story movie. Because, like, after a while, it's like, Sacha Baron Cohen, you're not going to be able to get away with this for too much longer.
Yeah.
But then he did it again with that one Showtime show, Who is America? And I don't know if either of you saw any of that, but that was actually really good. He does like an Israeli, like, secret ops pro-gun guy that's really good. And he was responsible for a Republican lawmaker. I don't know if he was a state senator or a congressman. He had to step down from his job because, like, he tricked him into, like, screaming the N-word during a skit.
Holy shit.
And it's like, you could say, like, oh, he tricked me, that's not fair, but it's like, dude, like, you did it. Like,
yeah, like, that's
you went all in. And
that's a word you just know not to use.
Oh yeah, like, anyone could have been like, no, I'm not doing that. But he lightly coaxed him. He's like, okay, so let's say you're doing, basically, to paraphrase this kid, he's like, so let's say you're screaming the N-word, and immediately the guy just starts screaming it, like, he's all in, like, he puts his chips down on the table and he's like screaming, he's going to town.
Jesus Christ.
And it's like, okay, well, thank you, Sacha Baron Cohen. You allowed us to rid ourselves of one more shitty lawmaker.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no, Borat, like, it's respect to it for being a comedy that was just so loud in the mainstream. Mike?
I honestly don't have a lot to say about Borat. I feel like I've never watched it all the way through, and it's just, I feel like most of my knowledge of Borat is just from people quoting it.
Yeah.
And saying very nice. But I will just throw out my favorite Sacha Baron Cohen movie is a movie that's super, super underrated. Like, when it came out, everybody just trashed on it. Was The Brothers Grimm.
Oh God, that was great.
That movie is amazing. The jokes have no limits. Like, when you think they're not going to go there, they go there.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But yeah, no, I don't know. But like, I mean, I gotta give credit where credit's due. You know, Borat kind of made Sacha Baron Cohen like a superstar overnight. So good for him. You know.
And he's married to Isla Fisher.
Yeah, which makes no fucking sense, but
Yes. Hey, it's just like what Jessica Rabbit said. Like, he makes me laugh.
apparently.
All right, next movie. Let's Go to Prison. This is like the most Comedy Central-esque movie ever. Like, this movie was on Comedy Central all the fucking time. I remember, like, seeing this movie so many fucking weekends on Comedy Central. And there's just a lot of, like, goofy little jokes in this movie, a lot of quotable jokes in this movie. Now, come on, Pisces, don't make me get the shoebox. Fucking, if you lie, don't go lie in the berry, because if you do, I'm gonna remove your genitals and put them in a shoebox. Now, would you like some sangria? I made it in the turlet. Now, Blake, I know you haven't seen this movie, right?
Yes, I have only seen Comedy Central commercials being like tonight at 9 o'clock, and they do the Merlot
Yeah.
joke. So yeah, other than that, I have no knowledge of this movie whatsoever.
It's a funny movie. I fucking love what the fuck is his name? Michael Shannon in this movie.
Yeah, you told me he's in it apparently.
Yeah, and there's a scene where he's like going up to Will Arnett because apparently like Will Arnett does something that causes Michael Shannon to have a beef with him, and Michael Shannon's just like, he goes up to him, he's like, it takes a lot of balls for you to come up to me, because like Will Arnett goes up to him, tries to like talk to a man to man and like smooth everything out, and he's like, it took a lot of balls for you to come up here and talk to me like this. You remind me of my father. Oh, was he a nice man? I killed him. with kindness? With a hammer. There's just a lot of little jokes in this movie that are great. Mike, have you seen this movie?
I haven't actually. It's crazy. No,
And it's because I don't think it's streaming on anything.
yeah, I had to, and then, like, there's another like movie with Dax Shepard like I've never seen. I was like, no, it's not ringing any bells for me.
Oh, Dax Shepard's in it?
Yeah, he's like, I guess he's the lead actor along with Will Arnett.
Okay. Yeah, see, there you go. I didn't even know who the main like protagonist was in it. So
Yeah,
it follows the two of them equally, or
Yeah, like basically here's the premise. Dax Shepard plays a dude who's been like in and out of prison since he was like a teenager. Just a general kind of fuck up person.
yeah,
So eventually he gets out, like the movie starts, he gets out of prison again. He's like an adult now. And he kept getting sent back to prison by the same judge who, like, the first time he got busted for like petty theft or whatever when he was a teenager, this judge was like, you're a stain on society and you need to, like, an example needs to be made out of you. And like the judge is like overly harsh on him, which is kind of like what kickstarted his, his path in life.
yeah.
So he gets out of prison. He's an adult now, and he's like, I'm going to get revenge on this judge who's like basically fucked up my entire life. Judge has a heart attack and dies. So he's like, well, shit, what do I do now? He sees that the judge has a son who's played by Will Arnett and is a complete spoiled trust fund baby asshole. So he's like, I'm going to get revenge on the son, and basically just like sets the son up and frames him, makes it look like he like performed an armed robbery in a grocery store, and gets the son sent to prison. And then he's like, you know what? I got him sent to prison, but that's just not good enough. So he purposely gets himself sent to the same prison so he can fuck with them inside of prison as well.
That's like
That's like
worse than all the memes to own the libs.
Yeah.
that's like hot rod logic, where like his stepfather is dying and he needs to get him a new heart so he can just kick his ass.
Yeah. Well, it's so great how he words it too. He's sitting at home after like Will Arnett gets arrested and gets sentenced to prison or whatever. He's sitting at home. He's like all depressed. He's like, man, it feels like it's prom night and everybody's fucking my date but me.
It's happened to somebody.
Yeah, I suggest you guys find this movie if you can and watch it. It's a funny movie.
Double
It's-
feature, Idiocracy, and Let's Go to Prison.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our next movie then, The Pursuit of Happiness. I feel like this was like the first movie where Will Smith started being like seen as an actor who can do stuff other than comedies.
Yeah.
Yeah, like very, very, like this was like his first like really big serious dramatic role. Just overall a decent solid movie. I mean, that scene in the beginning when he and his son are like sleeping in that bathroom and like somebody's trying to like open the door and shit. That's still a scene that'll make your hair stand up.
It only becomes more sad as you get older, and like you just become aware of like the consequences of life and like what's at stake, day to day.
And especially when you realize that it's based on a true story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, like the big moment was like at the end when he's actually hired, and he says, "I would like for you to work here. Would you like to work here?" And he just breaks down because he's so relieved that he finally made it, and it's just a really sad scene, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
he's so happy that he was finally hired that he just starts crying.
Yeah.
it definitely hits you. And yeah, yeah, that was the movie where it was like, oh yeah, Will Smith would actually very much like to be awarded an Oscar. Good
Yeah.
for him.
It's like, on the positive side, this movie was the movie that showed us that Will Smith has more range than what we thought. On the downside, this is the first time Will Smith started shoving his son down our throats.
His son was really good in this, though.
Well, that's because he was 6. He didn't have a whole lot that he needed to do.
Just be a kid.
Yeah.
But his son's definitely an interesting guy. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. I mean, just imagine that though. Like you grow up and Will Smith is your dad. Like, oh man.
There's a Key and Peele skit about that.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Dad bless you.
So they live in an apartment. What's an apartment? It's like a very tiny mansion.
Mike, do you have anything to say about The Pursuit of Happiness?
That's I feel terrible. I've seen parts of it, but I've never watched it all the way through. What I did saw, I really liked. Yeah, it's weird to think that Will Smith's never won an Oscar. I feel like he's one of those guys like he needs to get one eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean this started the career of his son for better or worse. But I mean, yeah, it's like it's kind of funny. It's like this is his best performance, but he's 6 years old,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and it's just like it being based on a true story. Like it's crazy the things people go through.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people don't realize how much people struggle.
Right.
Yeah.
Well then, next movie, The Departed. I've only seen this movie once, and it was with you guys. You guys showed it to me, and I remember liking it, but I don't really remember much beyond that of this movie. So I'm just gonna go ahead and bounce it to you guys.
Michael, you go ahead. I've been going first a lot tonight.
Okay. So I feel like I don't know about with the other guys, but I feel like when this movie was coming out, like me and Blake were like so pumped for this movie,
Mm-hmm.
and I was really pissed I didn't get to see it in theaters. But it was one of those things. It's like I was 15, I wasn't old enough to see an R-rated movie, so I didn't see it until it like came out
Mm-hmm.
on like DVD. But I don't know. It's an amazing movie. It won Best Picture. I feel like it's one of the last movies to actually deserve Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
It's arguably Scorsese's best movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy to think that like it's a remake. It's a remake of a Japanese movie called Internal Affairs. And the funny thing is, Internal Affairs actually has 2 sequels, which we always kept thinking. I remember me and Blake talking in school, like, oh, are they gonna make like a sequel and stuff like that?
Yeah.
But it's like now there's no point really.
No.
But no, it's just, and I feel like this was like the big heavy hitters, like especially because like people always joked like how Leonardo DiCaprio and like Matt Damon in the '90s were really similar.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, this was like the first movie they're in together, and it was kind of like the face-off. Like Leonardo DiCaprio is the undercover cop that's pretending to be a mobster, and then you have Matt Damon who's the cop who's the mole for the mob, who was basically raised by the mob, and of course like you have the great Jack Nicholson as the leader of the mob, Francis.
Yeah.
And he's just amazing in this movie. He's just so like sinister, but like so charming, and it has an amazing cast. You got Mark Wahlberg and Martin Sheen,
Ray Winstone,
Alec Baldwin. What's her name? This was like the first thing I ever saw her in. It was
Vera Farmiga.
Yeah, Vera Farmiga.
Yeah, from The Conjuring.
From The Conjuring, yeah. I feel like this was the first thing I ever saw her in.
Yeah.
Even Anthony Anderson's in this movie.
Yeah, and
He's really good in it.
one of the first times I saw James Badgedale.
Yeah, James Badgedale, yeah. Yeah, no, it has an amazing cast, and the story's great. The soundtrack's really good. I think Scorsese always has like good soundtracks in his movie, but I feel like this is like one of the first ones like I actually like noticed and listened to.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just an all around amazing movie. Like it deserved every award and accommodation it got.
Hmm.
It's just a great crime movie. It's a great modern crime movie.
Hmm.
I think it's funny though, like it's set in Boston, and like I feel like the only person they were missing was like Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and then the other person I feel like who could have been in the movie too was like Brad Pitt produced this movie, but he's not in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's an amazing movie. It's one of my favorites. It's just yeah, it's just an amazing movie.
Yeah. It's it's probably my personal favorite Martin Scorsese movie. It's it's probably a modern masterpiece in the crime genre. And it came out at a time when I was like really into that genre actually. Um,
Yeah.
Ironically, I had still not seen I would not have seen The Godfather finally for like several years, but I saw like The Untouchables on AMC, and I loved Heat with Robert De Niro and Michael Mann, and then I started playing like the Grand Theft Auto games, um, but yeah, it's just I don't even I forget. I think this year, like Leonardo DiCaprio was nominated for Blood Diamond instead of this movie. Um, but
Yeah, and his performance is better in this than Blood Diamond.
oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see all Blood Diamond, but like I think he was better in The Departed.
Yeah. And I think Jack Nicholson won Best Supporting Actor for this movie. I think he did win.
I think he did.
Um, and then he would like at like the MTV Movie Awards and other stuff. He won Best Villain. Like he was.
And Mark Wahlberg was nominated for supporting actor too.
That's true too. Um, and yeah, it's a great movie, and it's in for the longest time they had like the writer had planned to make like The Departed Part Two, um, but they just never got around to it. But yeah, at this point, it's just like I think they had floated the idea of making a prequel because obviously who would be able to come back?
And that's what the Japanese movie Internal Affairs did. Like the second movie was a prequel, and then the third movie was a sequel.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that'd be interesting. But yeah, it's interesting, and it's like I've gone back and forth on the ending, because especially like with my brother-in-law, he made the point. It's like you got all those actors, legendary actors, and it's just like the best ending you could. And he wasn't aware that it was a remake, but he's like the best ending you could have come up with is spoiler, they all die.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah,
but
except for Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, I remember.
yeah,
I remember having the same reaction to that ending that Blake had to the ending to The Godfather Part Three. It's just, oh, that's it. It's over.
Yeah.
but no, it's just yeah, the Departed is. It's,
But no,
it's
like
funny too. Like people forget how funny it is.
it is funny. No, like, but that scene like with Leonardo DiCaprio and like the climax, like my jaw dropped
Yeah,
for the first time. I was like, what? Yeah, what? This,
yeah,
you can't
yeah,
do that.
yeah. It's like that movie. Like it didn't care what you expected or what you thought. Like it was very. I thought it was good at subversion in that respect.
Yeah,
Um,
it felt very real.
yeah, no, it was very consequential. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk myself in circles here, and a lot of the compliments are to say about it have already been said. But if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth it. It's interesting to note, like I after Martin Scorsese said those comments about Marvel movies last year, um, there would pop up all these Facebook shit posting groups dedicated to him, and a lot of people actually resent The Departed because they don't think it's his best movie. They think like it was basically like a not a mulligan, but like an IOU. They felt that him winning for The Departed was the Academy Awards being like IOU, and how he had deserved it before up to that point. And
Kind of
but
like
yeah,
kind
it's
of like Al Pacino winning for Scent of a Woman instead of The Godfather.
exactly like
Yeah.
they thought it was that, which
Or
I
Leo winning for The Revenant.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, because I mean, honestly, like probably my personal favorite Leonardo DiCaprio performance is Shutter Island, but I feel like everyone thinks he is great in Shutter Island, but then people are like the rest of the movie is whatever, but yeah, I think that movie's very underrated. But no, it's interesting, but I personally think The Departed is just probably Martin Scorsese's best movie, like all around in general. So.
All right, well, let's move on to our last movie for the evening, Employee of the Month. This was another Comedy Central staple that was constantly rotated. I mean, you got Dane Cook, right, like when his career really started to take off. You got Dax Shepard again. You got the guy who played Pedro in Napoleon Dynamite. You got Jessica Simpson, back when people actually cared about her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw this movie so many times, and I mean, like, it's an okay movie, like, if you have nothing to do and you just need to kill, like, an hour and a half, 2 hours, but, I mean, beyond that, like, there's not really much to say about this movie. I can appreciate the plot of, a slacker who just does the bare minimum at work, finally getting his shit together and, like, just doing a hard day's work just for the sake of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, I just don't really have much to say about this movie. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's called Employee of the Month, but in many of the ways, it's basically Flavor of the Month. Like,
Yeah.
It was like, oh, who's the big comedian right now?
Right.
Dane Cook. It's like, oh, who's like one of the musicians that teenage boys thinks is really hot, and they couldn't get Jessica Alba. It's like, okay, Jessica Simpson. And then like,
oh man, how about that Napoleon Dynamite movie? Let's get that Hispanic kid in here.
Yeah, exactly. Like
It's funny Dane Cook did a movie with Jessica Alba later on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, so a lot of the choices in this movie just felt very Flavor of the Month, but
Yeah.
it's one of those where it's like at the time, seeing it as like a sophomore in high school, I thought it was enjoyable. Like, turn your brain off. It's like, it's not boring. It's
Yeah.
I was able to sit down and watch it for the first time and be very content. And then it's funny because last year I rewatched it. It was on Netflix, I think, and it was on one of the streaming services. And it was last year, and I think this was before my daughter was born. Yeah, it was before then. And I was, my wife was at work, and I had nothing else to do, and I was like, oh, whatever. I just need a simple, like, mindless comedy to turn on, and and I'll watch something that I've seen before so I don't get caught up in paying attention to it. I just needed to have something on in the background. And I watched it again, and I'm listening to a lot of the dialogue, and I'm like, oh my God, this was stuff that was like written down and like said out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not being like it's a lot of the dialogue is very cringy and
Mm-hmm.
very like very God, I'm at a loss of words here, but like it's almost like the screenwriters didn't understand how real people communicate in real life.
Yeah.
Just overly scripted, and yeah, it was kind of weird. It was kind of weird. Like it has aged in a very, very strange way.
Yeah, 'cause,
Cringy
like
way too.
literally nobody. I guess Dax Shepard's still kind of popular, but like, yeah, literally nobody who starred in this movie is like a thing anymore.
Dax Shepard's married to Kristen Bell, so he's
Right.
a big win there. And then he actually has a very popular podcast.
And then it's like, when was the last time anybody heard anything from Dane Cook?
It's funny because you know how they were doing like those Zoom calls where it's like with celebrities, like they were doing like table reads of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The Fast Times at Ridgemont High thing.
Yeah, they did like Fast Times
That
at
was
Ridgemont.
so weird.
And they did Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I agree. And Brad Pitt was in it. Jennifer Aniston was in it. Sean Penn was there, obviously.
Shia
And
LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf was there, and he's getting like high the whole time.
Yeah, and then
like
he was like reading for Spicoli, and they're all like fucking cracking up laughing.
and Dane Cook was there, and
Yeah,
I was like,
was there.
I was like, what,
And
do you
like
have?
Julia Roberts was there.
Yeah, it's like
It's
Dane,
so fucking random.
Dane Cook was so out of place because everyone else made sense. Like Shia LaBeouf, he's trying to be like the indie dude, like an auteur almost. You know, he's like experimental, artistic, or whatever. And then Brad Pitt has always been relevant. You know, and that's one thing I got to give him.
Yeah.
And then Julia Roberts is, you know, well, she kind of fizzle out a little bit, but still, like. You had all these other actors who had been A-list at one point or another, and then to Jennifer Aniston's credit and defense, she only became more and more respected.
Mm-hmm.
But then like Dane Cook's randomly there, and I'm like, what? But yeah, so, and I feel like Dane Cook. What happened to him was kind of like what happened with Twilight, where it's like. He became so popular, and then it became popular to hate on him. And then personally, I kind of felt more annoyed by the haters more so than the lovers. Now, granted, I was annoyed by like the constant quoting of him in the hallways, like Jeff Dunham. Mm-hmm. But once again, I thought Dane Cook had some legitimately funny like setups and stories than Jeff Dunham did. And but once again, like people just hated on him just because he was popular, and it's like, okay, like. And that was one of my first experiences with like people hating on something just to hate on it. But ultimately, Employee of the Month is the poor man's Clerks.
Yeah.
So
it's even got Andy Dick in it.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Andy Dick.
Woof.
Probably the best Andy Dick related joke ever. Was when they were doing the MTV Movie Awards for 2006, and like Andy Dick was like the albino from the Da Vinci Code, and they stab him, and they're like, and they're talking to Gary Cole, and they're like, oh, it looks like tonight's show went off without a hitch, and they're like, what about him? And you see Andy Dick lying in the corner, and Gary Cole just goes, oh, Andy Dick, he gets stabbed every year. Oh, God. Well, what do you remember about Employee of the Month, Michael?
Nothing.
Honestly, no. Well, see, I remember watching it on Comedy Central and watching it all the way through, but I don't remember too much. I remember, like, I liked it. I remember it was just, like, an enjoyable kind of feel-good comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, that was the time, where they were, like, Jessica Simpson was in the Dukes of Hazzard, and, like, people were all about, like, how everybody thought how hot she was.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And, Dane Cook was really big, and I was one of those people, I loved Dane Cook. Yeah, he was a bit overrated, but I always really liked his jokes. I was sad to see that, like, he, kind of lost, like, his luster and isn't really big anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's the thing. I really like Dax Shepard, but it's like I feel like I haven't seen half of his movies.
And this kind of does, like, this and Idiocracy does complete the double feature of Dax Shepard being a dickhead.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think what also helped bury Dane Cook a little bit was, like, I don't know if he still is, but, like, he was dating a girl literally 27 years younger than him.
Jesus Christ.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah, I heard that too.
And people are like, oh, when you're 57, they're 30, but it's like, no, that's not cool. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
imagine being 27 years old and thinking to yourself, huh, my future girlfriend is being born today. Like, that is fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to get a little preachy there, but no, like, that's not cool.
I think also what killed Dane Cook was, like, I thought he was funny at first when he first started taking off, but then, like, I feel like he was like a comedian that we all just outgrew. Like, I just remember getting like a little bit older and going back and watching some of his stuff and just being like, this isn't funny anymore. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he very much was like the high schoolers comedian.
Yeah. I mean, once again, to his credit, he was the man for the moment. He got his timing correct.
Yeah.
But his time could only last so long.
Right.
But,
Right.
I mean, but
let's move on.
Again, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, let's move on to TV. For 2006, I looked at TV that started and ended in 2006. And, I mean, this was around the time when I just really started caring less and less and less about TV. So I really only got one show that I watched that came out in 2006, and that was 30 Rock. And even then, I didn't watch 30 Rock until like a few years later. But I mean, I always thought it was funny. Tina Fey's always hilarious. Tracy Morgan was a fucking riot in that show.
Yeah.
Fucking Dr. Spaceman. And his name's pronounced Spaceman. I'm making a porn video game. It's impossible. The Valley of I forget what the fuck it's called. If you make a CGI character too real, it makes people uncomfortable. Like, look over here, we got C-3PO and R2-D2. Okay, cool. Everybody loves them. Yeah, they're great. And then over here we got like a cartoon character. All right. And then if you go over here, we got Tom Hanks in the Polar Express. Get me off! I want to go.
It's all coming alive, like toys when you leave your room.
Yeah. But what do you guys got to say about 30 Rock? Or any other TV that you might have watched in the year 2006?
Well, for 30 Rock, my sister was a big fan. She's a big fan of Tina Fey. And no, 30 Rock was a very well done show. Like, it was funny. I think it has become underrated because like once it ended, it just kind of went away. Like people still watch The Office, like The Office. I don't know if it came back or it never really went away, but like The Office is still just as much loved like as it was right now when it was first airing. I kind of wish that would happen with 30 Rock because 30 Rock was a little more clever and witty. Like The Office is funny, don't get me wrong, but 30 Rock, it was really good with like jokes that would come full circle.
I remember when they announced that, it was getting canceled. Alec Baldwin's trip was like, "I will take a pay cut if you guys will use that money to make more episodes."
Yeah, and I think that lasted him a little bit longer. Well, it was the comeback of Alec Baldwin. Like he'd kind of went away for a little while, and he was only like, he would be like random obscure supporting roles or antagonists in other movies. Like Alec Baldwin is the villain in the Cat in the Hat movie.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of weird.
Talk about losing a bet.
And then yeah. So but no, this was his comeback. But yeah, no. Did you ever watch any of 30 Rock, Mike?
No, I actually haven't. I haven't even seen one episode.
I think it's still on Hulu. Or maybe they've moved it to that Peacock.
Oh, okay.
No, fuck. Just
I know people were freaking out that The Office was going to eventually leave Netflix.
Yeah, which there's too many streaming services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that bubble will burst soon enough, trust me.
I guess. What others?
It will. I mean, there's every network thinks they can carry their own streaming service, and it's like you can't. Like, you can't.
Yeah. No.
Like Disney can get away with it because it's fucking Disney, and they own so many different things. But like, Comedy Central trying to have its own streaming service. Good luck, guys.
No. Fucking AMC.
Yeah.
Like, there's an AMC Plus. Like, what?
Good luck.
And it's just like, I understand people like Mad Men and people like Breaking Bad, but they're not going to pay $10 a month to watch two different shows. Like, God, I'm getting off topic here. What other shows do you have on the list for 2006?
Nothing. That's it.
Oh, wow.
Like I said, that is literally, like, out of all the shows that started and ended in 2006, that is the only one I watched.
Yeah, I think I can also like include Michael in on this. And I keep bringing up Andrew, but like we were really hanging out with Andrew all the time this year. for me in 2006, like I was just kind of over TV, and for the
Same.
most part, and either I was watching a movie or I was watching something on YouTube.
Same.
So
There's two shows I just looked it up that like stick out to me. I didn't watch them originally when they aired. I remember watching them on like streaming services later on.
mhm.
But one of them was Dexter,
Oh shoot,
and
damn.
I didn't watch that initially when it came out because I didn't have the higher channels then.
Mhm.
But I watched up to like the third season of Dexter, and what I saw, it's a really good show. Um, I can't think of his name. What's the name of the guy that plays Dexter? It's like Matt something.
No, it's
Or no,
it's
I can't think of it.
shoot, man, it's Well, go ahead. I'll look it up if you
Yeah,
just go ahead and.
I always thought he was an amazing actor. Like he really like sells the show. I'm really surprised like he hasn't really done anything since then.
Michael C. Hall.
Michael C. Hall, that's what it was. Yeah, I don't know how I was mad, but I remember I would see him all the time in like fan castings for like superhero movies.
And then he was never cast in anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this thing, he was an amazing actor. He was so good in that show. Yeah, and like the sister, I can't remember her name. She was like in The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and she was really good. It started like a whole like meme, like the whole surprise motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like that was always great. But it had a really interesting story. It was really cool to watch, like for any fans of like true crime or horror, and it had a lot of dark humor in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a great show. I want to finish it. I heard like as it went on, it got worse and worse, and like I always heard people hated the finale.
I hear it, and I hear it peaks, or at least like the last good season is the one with the fourth one with Jonathan Lithgow.
Yeah, and I just missed that. Like I didn't get to that, and I heard he's like really good as like the season villain.
And then one of the seasons, Jimmy Smits is a villain in it, and he's really good. I just think Jimmy Smits is great all around. I think he's very underused and underrated.
Yeah,
but
especially in Star Wars.
Yeah, dude, that was actually one of my favorite things about Rogue One was seeing Jimmy Smits there, because he had only been in the prequels, and I was like, I'm really happy for Jimmy Smits that he finally got to act on a Star Wars set that was an actual set and not a green screen. Like, Jimmy Smits must have been very relieved when he went on set. And he's like, oh, wow, people actually built this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
What a concept.
But no, I probably would have seemed like the last person in the world that would have liked Dexter. But no, that is a masterful show. Like, that first season especially, like I thought 2 was decent, and so was 3, but like that first season is perfect. And like the twist and I mean, you know, spoiler alert, but the show's like 14 years old now. No, when he has to kill his brother and he just breaks down and he just says, I'm sorry, I can't take it anymore, I can't hear anymore. That's like such a great scene. But yeah, no, he's great in that show. And yeah, no, it's of all people, it's probably, if you know me in real life, it's like you probably wouldn't have thought I would like that show a lot, but no, it was really good. It was really good.
And there's another show, but I only watched one season of it, and it was another one I watched like retroactively, was Heroes. Did you guys ever watch that?
No.
I tried to start, like, I think I watched the first episode and I just didn't go back to it.
I remember I think I watched it in 2013. I had gotten mono, and I was really, really sick. And yeah, no, it was awful. It was the worst I've ever felt in my life.
For some reason, I thought you were mentioning like a streaming service. I'm like, I don't remember there being a streaming service called Mono. But
Yeah.
go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
But no, like Heroes at the time was on Netflix, and I watched like the whole first season in probably like 4 days. And the first season is great. It's amazing. It's everything people talked it up to, because I remember like when the show came out, like you saw it everywhere. Like it was kind of like Lost. Like it was like Heroes and Lost were everywhere. Like when people talked about television.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't watched any of it since, but I always heard from people like after the first season, like the show went downhill, and then they tried to revive it a couple years ago, and it just didn't work apparently. But no, like
Yeah.
the first season is a really cool like modern take on like superhero stuff, and like that's where like Zachary Quinto got his start, and like his character like I think his name was Siler. Yeah,
Something like that. Something
yeah,
like that.
him, the main villain, Siler, like he's such an interesting like villain, like superhero villain, especially like his like how gruesome like his abilities are, like how he became the way he was
Yeah.
is great. I mean, do you guys know anything about like Heroes?
Not really, no.
Zachary Quinto's character, his superpower is that he could take other people's superpowers, but he was like really good at putting clocks together, and then like he basically cut open people's heads and examined how their brains work.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like they allude to like he didn't even have superpowers. Like he was like a clocks maker, and like he was just literally anything he took apart, he could like completely understand and put back together.
Yeah.
He could like dissect people's brains and literally like, because they say like in that show like their powers are like rooted into their minds, and he meets a person that has like telekinesis, and he literally like kills this person, dissects their brain, and like teaches himself how to like instantly like do it.
Yeah.
And that's what he does. He'll kill people off that have like superpowers and like dissect their brain, and then he like has their power.
Yeah.
It's so weird and like gruesome. Like he'll literally like uses telekinesis to like cut your head open.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I would say the first season is definitely like give it a watch. But yeah, it's pretty cool. There's no costumes or anything. It's more kind of like a realistic like drama.
It's a character study. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was cool, and they have like these cool like dystopian future scenes. Like it's pretty cool.
All right, well then let's move on to music for 2006. Now, I'm going to go ahead and bounce this section to Blake because, I mean, music is definitely my weakest spot in these episodes because during this time I just didn't really listen or care about mainstream music for the most part. So, Blake, I'm going to give you the reins.
Yeah, so I was just doing some Google searches and especially for albums, but this was the year that The Black Parade by My Chemical Romance came out, Stadium Arcadium by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Justin Timberlake released Sexy Back, Sam's Town by The Killers, and then the hit Rehab by Amy Winehouse came out, Snow Patrol, Chasing Cars, and then the ones that you had originally listed, Donnie. I forgot to save those off the chat, but what did you originally have?
I had Sexy Back by Justin Timberlake, Smack That by Akon, and Hips Don't Lie by Shakira. A really sexual year this year.
Yeah. So yeah. I think obviously, like, especially being in high school, for a lot of people, the big one was The Black Parade by My Chemical Romance. Like that was everywhere. Like the hoodies, the T-shirts, like
the posters,
like it was
the makeup.
Yeah. Like, and it's funny because I wasn't really into, and I've said this before in past episodes, I wasn't really into that genre before at the time, and in hindsight, I really feel like I missed out, and I kind of wish I had been into it when it was like in the moment, and in the heat, at the top of its height. But no, it's one day they're gonna make like nostalgic movies and shows that take place in the mid 2000s the same way they've been doing about the 80s and 90s, and they're gonna have Panic at the Disco and My Chemical Romance and Fall Out Boy on repeat throughout those soundtracks.
Yeah.
And honestly, I personally can't wait for that. Well, I can, but I can't. Like, I think it'll be really bittersweet to witness, but then also it'd be like, oh man, this is retro already. Like, I feel so fucking old now.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a feeling that everyone gets to eventually. Um, and then Stadium Arcadium, like, either you were bumping to Black Parade or you were bumping to Danny California, I feel like, that year.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, like, what all do you have to say, Mike?
Um, I mean, yeah, I'll say like Stadium Arcadium. Yeah, that was the big, like, I feel like it was the big comeback for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I feel like you still hear songs from that album on the radio to this day.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, like the Black Parade. Like the Black Parade was, I feel like a big deal. I feel like that's when like My Chemical Romance like went into like superstardom. Um, and there's a lot of great songs on that album. Yeah, and then Justin Timberlake, with Sexy Back, like that, I feel like that kind of cemented him like being a solo artist.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Um, he kind of like shredded the whole NSYNC thing. But just not really, I wouldn't really say it was like a worldwide thing, but an album that came out in 2006 that had a big influence on me. I didn't really listen to it until maybe about 2, 3 years later, but was it was big in the emo scene, was because I was an emo kid. Was "Dying Is Your Latest Fashion," which was it was the first like official album for Escape the Fate.
Hmm.
And everybody knows me, like Escape the Fate was like that and like Slipknot were my two favorite bands in high school. And Escape the Fate was a very much like post-hardcore like emo band, and it was their last album with their original singer Ronnie Radke, who eventually formed the band Falling in Reverse. But no, I just like I was obsessed with this band. Like listened to
Hmm.
their songs every time. I remember watching with the guys like all the time, like the music video for Situations, because
Yeah.
it's just like a funny like music video of them being at like a school and like all the teachers are like half naked.
Well, I
They,
remember, like, yeah,
they
like
kind
you
of like,
said.
oh, go ahead.
Well, yeah, like you said, like a few years later, like I remember us like listening to that like in 2009, not 2006. So it was a little bit of a delayed reaction with our group.
Yeah, and that was the thing too, is like I said, how this was Ronnie Radke's last album. Like he had already left the band, and I was like getting into that band. I'm like, oh, he's not there anymore. I was like, that sucks, because like
Yeah.
I feel like he's what made the band, and like even though I did like their stuff with their other singers later on, but like no, I just it's to me like when I think of like high school and like the emo scene, like to me I think of that album like no, they weren't like worldwide superstars like in the emo scene like Fall Out Boy or My Chemical Romance, but like this one like as far as like screamo goes, like this is what I think of.
Yeah.
And yeah, just I love every song on that album. Um yeah, just yeah, they almost kind of even though they were screamo too, I feel like they kind of harkened back to like the 80s rocker with like the big hair and like being all about talking all about like sex and like having like half naked women in your music videos. Like it felt very much like they were harkening back to the 80s. Yeah, I mean even their drummer Robert Ortiz, like he literally looks just like Slash, like on purpose. He's
Yeah.
like he's like tan skin. He has like long black like curly hair that goes down. He wears aviators all the time. Like he purposefully like wants to look like Slash. But yeah, no, that's definitely like the album of the year for me.
Didn't one of them go to jail or something?
Yeah, Ronnie Radke did. That's why he got kicked out of the band because he went to jail.
Shit.
Yeah. But then when he got out, he formed his own band. It was called Falling in Reverse, and he's still with Falling in Reverse. They're still doing stuff.
Huh.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, then. Well, let's move on to the last topic for the evening: video games, 2006. So I'm just going to run through it all here quickly since it's a bit of a short list. 2006, we had the launch of the PS3 and the Wii, and the 360 had launched the year before. I mean, I remember the 360 having a strong start when it first launched. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I've just never been an Xbox fan. It's just not my personal taste. The PS3 had a very rocky launch, but it eventually, like, slowly but surely, like, got its shit together, and it ended up overpowering the 360 in the end. I mean, the PS3 was definitely, out of all three, the best system just based off the features it had. But goddamn, that fucking price tag that it had at the time, $600 in 2006. And then,
Yeah. I think that's the thing that really hurt it.
yeah, it was completely. And then the Wii was okay, but like this was like the Wii was the beginning of a rough time for Nintendo as a whole. I remember the Wii came out, and for like a second, for a minute, everybody was like, "Oh, this is like really different than what everybody else is doing. It's interesting. Let's take a look at it." And it's very gimmicky.
Yeah.
Like people were interested in the Wii for like maybe a couple months, and then it just sort of like it very quickly went off to the wayside. Some video games that came out in 2006, The Godfather, the game, which is a really fun game, and I love how it takes the perspective, like it takes the approach of like the entire game, you're playing it from the perspective of like a tertiary character from the movies, which is really neat. So you get to see like a new perspective on a lot of iconic scenes from the movie. Another game that came out that year, Saints Row, which the first Saints Row is so different from the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Like, my memories of Saint Row mostly come from the third and fourth game, especially since you played the hell out of them, Blake.
Yeah.
And I just remember 3 and 4 having so much over-the-top, goofball, crazy humor. And, like, that's practically non-existent in the first game. Like, the first game is, like, it is very much a Grand Theft Auto clone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another game that came out that year, Scarface, The World Is Yours. Now, I had this game on PS2, and I recently started playing it again for the first time since, like, high school. Completely coincidental. I did not plan to start playing this right before we were going to talk about it. So that's just funny how that worked out. But, like, this game is over the top in, like, the most fun way. It is, like, the perfect experience for, like, a playable version of that movie. You know, even though they didn't get Al Pacino to voice Tony Montana because his voice was wrecked from chain smoking by this point, the guy who does Al Pacino does like a perfect Al Pacino impression. Like not just like how he sounds, but how he like his tone and his inflection and his attitude. It is such a great game. It's so much fun. It's so addicting, and it's just so over the top. It's a perfect successor to that movie. Tony Hawk's Project 8 came out in 2006. I remember getting this game for Christmas, and I remember like if Tony Hawk's Underground 2, which we discussed previous episode, was like the peak of the skateboarding craze, Project 8 was when it first started declining, and it was a very sharp and noticeable decline. I remember getting this game for Christmas, being so excited, popping it in, and just immediately feeling like something was wrong, and it only got worse from there. And then Bully came out in 2006, which Grand Theft Auto in high school. I missed Bully during this time. I did not get to play Bully for the first time until a year or two ago when Blake and I were doing that aforementioned stream. And it's a fun game. I really wish I had played it when it first came out when I was 15 years old. I would have absolutely loved it if I got to play it at that age.
Yeah.
But Blake, you go ahead and start. What do you got to say about all of this?
So yeah, like through and through, Saints Row 1 is definitely like, oh, I can do Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
But then like as you said, like the sequels are nothing like it. Like the one that I that I played the hell out of is the praised one, which is Saints Row the Third.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, then do your own thing, be yourself, like go all out, like go nuts, and it is. And then, not to be a malcontent, but with Saints Row 4, they perhaps go too far. It basically just becomes the X-Men enter the Matrix during Independence Day. But yeah, Saints Row the First, I know our buddy Moon had it, and it has a few jokes in it. Like there's like a strip club in it called Freckle Bitches. that I don't know why, but that always tickled the shit out of me. And then Scarface. I never played it. I'm totally down for it though. Like in the future, Donnie, like I am telling you, I want you to bring it over because I have to try it out.
I'll do you one better. We'll do a stream of it.
Okay.
We'll play through the whole game. And
then I remember playing The Godfather the game. Such an underrated game.
Very fun game.
And like the thing was is like eventually I was like, okay, I'm not in the mood for the story mode. I started taking over all the little individual shops block by block. I mean, and that'll keep you occupied for a while in and of itself.
My favorite memory of that game though is that fucking commercial with Marlon Brando.
Oh, you, unlike me. and I was just whoever like. I don't know. What do we think about the guy they hired to do the Marlon Brando impression for that game? It's just like the scene when he gets shot up and he's just walking down. He gets like, I don't know, he's buying a tomato or something from a lady off the street. He's like, "Thank you. You're a nice lady." It's just whatever. But no, like
it was Tommy Wiseau in disguise.
Yeah, Jesus God. No, the Godfather, the game, like. Very, very underrated, I think. Mm-hmm. And I like it. It's like, oh, you get to play as Michael Corleone, whereas it's like I think that's a much smarter approach. Is no, like you were like a henchman, you were a background character. You get to see the events of the original classic unfold. Like you are like in the passenger seat,
and then you even get to see scenes that were implied and not shown on screen.
Yeah, like I thought it was clever. I thought it was clever.
I mean, you mentioned how taking over like all the individual shops and businesses will keep you occupied. Like it keeps you so occupied that like I ended up 100%ing this game by accident almost, just because I was just having so much fun doing everything.
Yeah. No, it didn't. It's almost like getting like a whole other game, really. Like a whole other story.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then. Bully, like that, I don't know. It goes back and forth between Saints Row the Third and that, but as far as like video games of like the sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
As far as video games of the 21st century, like Bully is my personal favorite. Like I love that game. I had been playing Grand Theft Auto for a few years already. And I remember Bully was coming out, and first of all, like, yeah, I mean, you can't blame some people because they automatically expected controversy because it's Rockstar, but they're like, oh no, you're gonna be able to do like a Columbine mission in it and stuff, and it's like,
no,
it's like no, you're not. But no, like I remember that was coming out, and it's weird how like it was a moderate release, it was a decent release, but like. They released it on the PS2 the year that the PS3 is coming out. Like that kind of felt like a middle finger to the game. It felt a little backhanded, but
it was probably in development long before the PS3 was like about the launch.
Fair enough.
And at that point, it was too late to like switch it over to a whole new hardware.
Yeah. But I remember Michael. He got it first. He got it for Christmas, and he got it for Christmas, and by the time it was after New Year's, he 100%ed it, and he let me borrow it. And it was like just in the nick of time. Like Michael's timing couldn't have been more perfect because he let me borrow it like literally the week before we had like a bunch of snow days.
Oh,
and that was great. Like just waking up, school's canceled, mom's, downstairs watching her Judge Judy for the day, and dad's going to be a few hours getting home from his night shift. I was like, I turned on the TV in my room, and I just played chapter after chapter, and I love that game with all my heart. It's a funny game too. Like, you have Algie of the nerds, who's like always pissing his pants. It's just Russell, like, yeah. No, I'll give it to you, Michael. You go ahead.
I love Bully. I remember seeing it in ads for like Game Informer and stuff, and I was super excited for it. Yeah, I got it at Christmas, and I just played through it so fast. Like, it's just one of those games you get hooked and you just have to play through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the story is just like dumb fun. It's just it almost feels like a teen movie when you're watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is, it's called Bully, but you're not technically a bully. You're like an anti-bully. You're like the bully of bullies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that by like, what's it, like the 5th chapter, like you've conquered all the like cliques.
Yeah.
And then like you get framed for like, well, you do it, but then you get all the blame for it, and like everybody turns against you.
Yeah.
You kind of got to go back to square one. Like, it's just my biggest complaint with this game is that it didn't get a sequel, because I love this game. I feel like there's so much they could have done with it for next gen consoles.
Yeah.
Like, brought in like more like clicks or whatever, because like it was kind of in like a time warp, because there were some things that were like modern day, but then they had like greasers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the music like made it seem like it was kind of like back in the day.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the game is where you have to storm like the nerd like base, which is the school observatory.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first time like you get the spud gun and the bottle rocket launcher.
Mm-hmm.
And like if you don't know what you're doing, like I feel like that's the hardest part of the game.
No, it's in all. I recently got it on iOS for my iPad, and I played through it all over again. I was actually playing it earlier this episode, just listening to you guys. That's how much I love this game. But yeah, I mean, it's just like I don't necessarily have complaints of the game, but just like little notes and questions, I guess. Like, you release a game like this during like the golden age of emo music, but you don't have any of the clicks be goths or emos, like you went with greasers instead.
Yeah, I feel like they should have had like the rock and roll scene a little more.
Yeah. Or like, I guess like this would just be like a branch off of the nerds, but like the anime kids almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that is, I agree with you, Michael. Like, the biggest fault of this game is that they never made a sequel, and it's like, why not? Like, and obviously they're gonna keep making Grand Theft Auto games, but like then like they made a Red Dead Redemption 2, and they made Rockstar's Ping Pong a game. It's just like,
table tennis.
Table tennis. I'm sorry, table tennis. It's like, what are you guys doing? Like, I swore that there was like a catch to that game. Like, there's got to be something up like when you play the game, but no, it's just a table tennis simulation. Yeah, that's weird, but
it's fucking random.
And then every few years there will be a random rumor that they're finally gonna announce Bully 2,
Mm-hmm.
and then they don't.
Yeah, they just keep like re-releasing Bully. Like, you can get it on current consoles and stuff.
Yeah, so I'll keep getting it, but
it's like obviously people were playing it, so it's like, why don't you just make a sequel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as the other games, I never played The Godfather or The Scarface. The World Is Yours. I remember, like, do you guys remember like X-Play and like G4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember they did a review on like Scarface, The World Is Yours, and I thought it was so fucking hilarious. They just basically showed all the goofy shit you could do and the goofy shit like Tony Montana says.
Yeah. Oh my God, the dialogue in that game is so great.
Yeah, they said that's what like really makes the game like stand out from other like sandbox games.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, I'd like to play it at some point too. And then I honestly I remember my dad playing the Godfather game. My dad was like obsessed with playing it. Like my dad like never played like Grand Theft Auto games, but my dad would play the Godfather game. But I never got around to playing it myself. Um, the Tony Hawk game, I've honestly never played that. I stopped playing Tony Hawk after the Underground games.
This was the last one I played, Project 8.
Yeah, I was looking through the list of like games that came out in 2006. Two of them that like I've only played like a little bit of, but I guess they're worth mentioning because they were kind of big those years. Was like Dead Rising and Gears of War. Did you guys play those?
No.
Yeah.
Oh no, Kogel would have a lot to say about both of those.
Yeah.
Um,
And Gears of War was an Xbox exclusive. Like that was like a big like Xbox uh, title.
well, and that was, I mean, no disrespect to it, and I don't mean to like sound crude or like dismiss it, but Gears of War was like them trying to have a Halo on a year that they couldn't have Halo. It felt like.
Yeah, and it was like, but it was like a little different. It was like a third person over the shoulder like shooter. They
Yeah.
could mix it up a little bit.
I love the theatrical trailer to Gears of War, how it was doing Mad World from the Donnie Darko soundtrack.
Yeah.
That was a really good trailer for a video game.
Yeah.
Which which that was like that annoyed my dad so much. We're in the theater for that. I forget what movie we were seeing that season. And my dad just goes, "So we have fucking movie trailers for video games now?"
Yeah.
He was like so annoyed by that.
Pretty much. Well, that's the thing. Like movie or video games now are like half movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's video games that come out now that have better plots than movies right now.
Yeah.
But another one like it's one of those things I was actually like thinking about like playing this game because I've never sat down and played it and I wanted to is The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess because it actually came out like on the Wii but it also came out on GameCube and I feel like a lot of people played it just on GameCube because of the Wii controls.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm a big Zelda fan, but that was one of the ones I just never got around to really sit down and play myself. So I really want to play that one. But like two games that like I put like tons of hours in that came out in 2006 was Marvel's Ultimate Alliance and Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Now, as like, I don't know if you guys are ever really played much of the Elder Scrolls games, have you?
No.
No.
And it's just I feel like like Oblivion and Skyrim like if you like fantasy at all like you got to play like I feel like they're like the ultimate like sword and sorcery games. I feel like they immerse you so much like there's so much you can do. I've always loved like Bethesda games. I mean they're kind of going through a rough patch right now, but I I just I put so many hours into Oblivion. Like it's literally like a game you can. I mean, like when people think like Grand Theft Auto is like immersive, I feel like with Oblivion or like Skyrim, like you can literally just not do the plot at all. You can just walk around and just do hours of doing whatever the hell you want. Like you just get lost in those games. Like you want to get something done and it takes like 8 hours to do. But it's fun. It's not boring.
Yeah.
And Ultimate Alliance, like that was like I remember playing that with Andrew a lot, just like that 4-player like play almost any like Marvel character you want.
Yeah.
I missed that game, and I was always so upset that I never got to play it.
You never
It
got
was
to play?
fun.
I never got to play Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 or 2.
Oh man, see, two's not as good as one.
Mm.
Two's okay, but like no, did you ever play X-Men Legends?
Nope.
See that was the same game. It was just X-Men.
Mm.
But Ultimate Alliance is great. Like yeah, no, I would honestly recommend like if it's like me you and Blake ever like get together, or if we have like someone else too, like we should all like play it because it's just a fun like multiplayer game where you just like it's not particularly hard. It's just like a fun game that you just run through and like unlock different Marvel heroes, and like you start off with so many at the beginning. And
Yeah.
I always really liked it like personally because you could play as Ghost Rider,
Yeah.
and then he's not
Yeah.
in the second one, and that pissed me off. And like you could do like different lineups and get bonuses. Like I remember if like you had four Fantastic Four, you get a bonus or yada yada, yada. Or you have like four of the Avengers. I remember I used to always do one. It was if you put like Ghost Rider, Blade, Doctor Strange, and Thor, you were called the Supernatural team, and it gave you like a bonus.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I totally recommend playing it.
No, I have fond memories of us playing it. It was a fun game. What you may have already said this and I totally missed it. What did you prefer, X-Men Legends or Ultimate Alliance?
Um, Ultimate Alliance, and don't get me wrong, I really liked X-Men Legends, but X-Men Legends, like, there was a point in the game where it got really fucking hard,
Yeah.
to the point where you had to like grind really, really bad, because it has like RPG elements.
Yeah.
But like I feel like Ultimate Alliance, like as long as you like are paying attention, like there's no way like you're gonna get stuck. And
Yeah.
like it was just fun. I remember just playing as Captain America, and like there was like a buff he would do. He would hold his shield up, and like a beam would shoot down, and I would just like I'd be at Andrew's house, and I'd just be yelling, "Avengers Assemble!"
Yeah.
Just do it like 50 million times. And like everybody had like special attacks, like Iron Man would just like he just light the place up with like fucking missiles. And like everybody could do different things. Like certain characters could fly, and like Spider-Man could swing across like the stage. Like I don't know, it's just a fun game. Like it almost felt like an arcade game too. It had that kind of like four-player arcade feel.
Nice.
But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun.
Nice.
All right. Well, on that note, I think we covered the year 2006 pretty well, guys. I think we had a great show tonight. I want to thank everybody for listening and thank Mike for coming back and joining us tonight.
Thank you.
You can follow the Fat Minute on Twitter at Fat Minute Radio, Instagram Fat Minute Radio, and Facebook at Fat Minute Radio. I am Don John. You can follow me on Twitter at Don John Laughs, and you can follow Blake on Twitter at Puka Saucy. So again, thank you everybody for listening tonight. Thank you guys for joining me. Be good and be safe.